Welcome in, everybody, to my latest live broadcast. It is the 19th of May. It's Thursday, and my name is Carey Holzman. Welcome in. I've gone ahead and opened up the chat room for everybody today, and we'll see if people behave, and that will help me to know just how frequently I will do this, or infrequently, depending on how this goes tonight. Tonight, I've got the ASUS VivoBook. This is the exact same model we sent to John Wilson, and I've been waiting for Amazon to deliver it all day so I could make this video, and they only just delivered it. So I'm going to do a live unboxing, and we'll go through what this laptop is like and kind of evaluate what you should expect for the money. It's a $600 laptop. It's got 8 gigs of RAM. You cannot upgrade the RAM. As I mentioned, when you go for these bargain basement computers, understand that the reason they're priced lower is because you're getting less. In some way, there is something missing that is resulting in a lower price. So you pay less, you get less. But that doesn't mean what you get necessarily is junk. But understand, please, that if you're going to buy a budget laptop, that you don't plan to have it for 10 years. This is not likely going to do well over the course of a long period of time. It is a budget laptop, and as a result, you should adjust your expectations. If you are expecting better, then spend more. All right. So I'll put that out the gate. And I will say, for probably 85% of computer users, this is all of the laptop they really are going to need. Most students going to school, for schoolwork, writing your papers, dissertations, what have you. This has more than enough power for all of that. Let's go ahead and we'll cut the tape on it. You see, I've got it's completely sealed. I've never opened it. So you're going to see my initial reactions as well. All I know is what I've read online about it. So we'll see how it pairs up with reality, right? So, okay, let's just cut the tape and see what we got in here. Oh, let's open it this way. Okay. They offer the laptop with a couple different colors, red and green. The red, for some reason, was a little cheaper by about $10. So there is our red. It's silver on the bottom and silver on the inside. How does this open? Probably from this side here, I'm going to guess. Battery life should be probably about 7 to 8 hours, I would guess, with the battery that it has built into it. And let's see, set this stuff over there. ASUS is putting a highlight around the enter keys in all their VivoBooks. That's kind of interesting. It matches my Gatorade. I don't know why they do that. I touch by feel. I don't look for a highlighted key, but if I had the choice of highlighting a key, it would probably be backspace or delete, because I use that more than anything apart from the space bar. But the space bar, obviously, that's easy to find, so that doesn't need any highlights. It's just an interesting touch that ASUS has done with their machines, their laptops lately. Let's see, we've got some documentation. I don't know what this is. What is this? We have stickers of some tiki guy. I don't know what this is. Oh boy, you know you're dealing with a serious laptop when it comes with stickers for you to decorate your laptop with. They want you, I guess, to show your pieces of flair and to put stickers on your laptop liberally. This is a first. I don't know what this is. If these are characters for something, is this the gorillas? I don't know. It's just a bunch of stickers. I guess the A is for ASUS. Okay, that's the strangest The strangest thing I've seen come with a laptop in all my years of doing this. Do the stickers glow in the dark? You know, they don't appear to, but these might. These I don't know. I mean, how do you use your laptop in the dark? Doesn't the screen light up? I don't understand. Some kind of quick start guide. Do we have two of these? What is with this? This is a user guide, and this is a warranty packet, I guess. They look almost identical, but I guess the warranty information's on the back with the serial and such. So I guess we want to put that away where we can't lose it. And then underneath, anything underneath here? We've got a power adapter. Well, I don't like it when they get these big wide power adapters like this. You know, they take up room on the surge protector. And it's got a barrel connector on this end, not a USB Type-C for charging. You know, we're probably heading down the extinction of these barrel connectors for most electronic items. Everything should be charging through USB-C moving forward. We should see more and more of that until eventually the barrel connectors will be all but forgotten about, at least with regards to anything computer related. You know, I'd love to see a time when I can charge my toothbrush and my shaver and my laptop and my phone all with the same charger. So when I'm traveling, I don't have to bring a bunch of chargers with me. And we're getting there. We are getting there. But that's all that's in the box. The rest of the box is empty. Now, one of the first things I recommend you do when you get anything with a battery in it is charge that battery up all the way. Now, you can still use the device, but just make sure that you leave it plugged in until the battery is fully charged. That's going to set that battery life up in the best way possible for battery life and longevity. That first charge is critical. And let me just take a quick look here in the chat. Say hello to everybody. Thanks for joining us. I see Kelly Stewart is in the chat. Hey, Kelly. And there's Paul Garrett, and Stephen Culver, and DJ Matrix, Patrick Holcomb, Danny Hartline, Vern Mahoney, Rare Apple 3, Joseph Venturi, Nelson Contreras, Charles Carson, Steve Yoakum, John Paul Bacon. Welcome in, everybody. I see Josper Gaming, Brian Lee, Michael Dooling. Welcome in, everybody. Q, the Retro Gamer, Dr. Bill. All right, let me just plug this in, and it's got this plastic. Manufacturers, they cover everything in plastic that can be scratched, but this plastic is not meant to be left on. This device right here will get warm, and the plastic isn't going to help it stay cool. So while you could probably own this your whole time of ownership with this plastic on here without really noticing any harm, it really is designed to be removed once you've taken it out of the box. Sometimes there'll be plastic at the other end. That's not the case here, but something to look for on any electronic devices you're buying. Some people think if I keep the plastic on it, it'll stay looking new. Well, that's well and good for the next person you sell it to. But if you want to reduce the likelihood of having any heat-related problems, I would follow the manufacturer's guidance and remove as requested by the manufacturer the plastic as soon as possible when you've unboxed it. In fact, if for any reason you had to return the product, you would not need this. This is not something that matters in a return scenario. For that matter, that the felt stuff that I had there, that also you can send. The main concern is they're getting the laptop back and they're getting the power brick back, and preferably in the original box. Those are the things you would have to send back if you were returning something to, let's say, Amazon. I want to give a shout out to a viewer named James Habig. James sent me a couple of used drives he doesn't need anymore. We have an NVMe drive, which appears to be, I don't know what this is. This is an ADATA ASUS 750, and I think this is a 1 terabyte drive. It doesn't say. And this one, this is an HP solid state 1 terabyte drive. These have been, I guess, used, and he doesn't need them anymore, so I will use these in the giveaways. I think this is a 500 gig NVMe drive. So thank you to James Habig for sending that along, and we'll definitely use them. Absolutely. Brian Lee contributes $2. He says he's glad to have made it to a live stream. Right on. Well, glad to have you here. I'm just taking a look through the chat, see if I'm missing anything before we go further into the broadcast. Samuel is asking a question, but I am concerned because I'm kind of curious what video Samuel clicked on. Can you tell me the name of the video you clicked on, Samuel? Because I think it will answer your question. I do try to address the questions even when they seem unusual. I'll do my best to provide an answer. Trevor says his dad's still using an old cheap ASUS laptop from 2015 with a Core i3 5th gen, 4 gigs of RAM and a hard drive. The fact that it still runs with no issues 7 years later is impressive for a cheap laptop. If you take care of it, yeah. The problem is when Windows 11 comes out, this may, or I don't know, it should be compatible with Windows 11. I don't know that it would be. But I wouldn't expect much from it. You know, you can get 7 years out of it. Honestly, if you can get 4 years out of it, you should call it even. Anything after 4 years is just bonus. And that's assuming you don't outgrow it. Sometimes our needs change and the laptops start to get really slow. And as I mentioned, one of the ways they get the price cheap on these is they don't put any memory sockets in it. Those little memory sockets cost money. And then you have to make room for it on the motherboard. So what ASUS has done is they just soldered on 8 gigs of RAM, and that's it. That's permanent. It can't come off, and there's no sockets, so you can't add any more RAM. I wish they would have made it 16, but if they would have made it 16, the price would have gone up by $50 or $40, and then it wouldn't probably have ended up in our cart to buy it. So, you know, careful what you wish for. So this does have a permanent 8 gigs of RAM built in there. Let me see if I can show you the inside of this without taking it apart so you can have a better understanding of how it's made. I should be able to add an image here. Let's see, there's an image, and let's browse my network. There we go. There we go. And let's see if I get rid of my camera, and let's see if we can fit this image to the screen. Transform, transform. Where's my transform? There it is, transform, fit to screen. Here we go. All right, you see I've got some arrows I've added to point out what is upgradable and what isn't. And I don't know if my mouse, I don't know if you can see my mouse moving, but if we start with the arrow on the left, it's pointing down at one Nvme slot where there is a module. That's a 500 gig module that you can replace if you want to. You can open the laptop and you can switch that Nvme module out. Next to it is a smaller module where the arrow in the middle kind of pointing up and to the left. That's the Intel Wi-Fi card, which can be removed. That's socketed and can be removed, just like any other standard laptop. Moving to the third arrow to the right there, the arrow lowest towards the bottom of the screen, it's pointing up Those are your 4 RAM modules that total 8 gigs of RAM that are soldered onto the board, and there are no empty sockets. And then finally, all the way to the right with the arrow pointing down, that is an empty NVMe socket, so you have the ability to add a second NVMe drive. So it's not that the entire laptop isn't upgradable, just the RAM is not upgradable. But it was that little bit that has allowed ASUS to provide a much cheaper price on this laptop to get it under the $600 range. So this is an i5 laptop. If we talk about the specs, it's a 500 gig NVMe drive, 8 gigs of RAM. And there is a link right below this video, right into the video notes, that'll take you right to the Amazon website where you can see all the specs of the machine. What I want to do right now is I just want to hit the power button and fire it up, and we'll go through what the first power on experience is like. Now, something ASUS is doing, and you know, I'm seeing this from Dell, I'm not a big fan of it. The power button right up here looks like all the other buttons. There's nothing distinctive about it. So it seems like it'd be easy to accidentally press. But I'm going to go ahead and hit that power button, and we're going to turn that on for the very first time. You saw me cut the tape and unbox it. So we'll see what this looks like, and I can probably grab an HDMI cable and plug it in, because I do believe this has HDMI out. We've got a small memory card reader. We've got 2 USB port. Are those USBs? Yeah, 2 USB 3s on the side. Another USB here, Type C here. This is a headphone jack, or a headset jack, so headphone and microphone. And then we do have HDMI. Let me see if I can plug an HDMI cable into that and get it over to OBS so you can see it. I'll go right here, like this. You can see the power cable's getting in the way of the HDMI cable there. So I'm going to flip the power cable the other way. Now the HDMI may not activate until after we get through this. I'm going to just have to check and see. Because we are technically in Windows, that might work. Let's go to OBS and take a look at HDMI input. Oh, it did work. All right. All right. Well, then I can turn the laptop towards me. I don't have to face it towards you anymore. And we'll go through our first time setup and see what it's like setting up one of these laptops. If you were to order one, then this will be your experience. Click yes on this. Oh, good, Cortana. Just what I never wanted. We'll tap that microphone icon to shut her up. And I'm just waiting for this to go away. I'm not sure if there's a way to skip it, so I just wait for it. And we're already through. Click yes on the United States, and the keyboard layout is US. I skip any other keyboard layout. It wants to connect to a network. I'm going to just say I don't have internet right now. Continue with limited setup, and then I can create a local user account. So I'll click accept on the Windows 10 license agreement as though I had a choice. And we'll just call this VivoBook and hit enter, and enter on the password, so that way we don't have any password on this. You know me, I like to turn off everything but location settings. You'll see they're a little bit moved around here. This looks like it might be an older version of Windows 10. I don't normally get 7 options anymore, I usually get 6. But anyway, this can all be adjusted by the end user at any point if they don't like my default settings. I don't want to use Cortana, so I click Not Now, and I'm not interested in support and protection, so we should be able to just hit Next and skip past that. And uncheck this, and Next. And again, that's up to you if you want to go through all of those, if you want to give out your email address and stuff like that and register the laptop. It's not required, but they would sure like it if you did that. So now Windows 10 is finalizing here. Don Allen has contributed $10 and says, for whatever you need. Where has Mitch been hiding? I just told you guys I was just out with Mitch the other day. So yeah, we're talking about bringing him on here for a just a little chit chat. You know, I'm not really doing any more of these computer builds, so there's really nothing I have for Mitch to do. He doesn't do repairs, so but yeah, we're working on figuring out a subject for video that we could entertain one another with. But he's doing well. You guys have any other questions in the chat room while we're waiting for Windows 10 to finish its final setup? It's just about done. All right, so that's what our desktop looks like. And now that we're on the desktop, and you'll see the battery is charging. You know, out of the box, I wouldn't expect it to have, I didn't have the power plug plugged all the way in. So now when I plugged it in, now it's charging. That's better. You see that the icon down on the bottom here is moving, showing the little bar moving in a little, I think there's like a little plus, or there's a plug right there that shows it's plugged in. I'm going to say get started on this. It's not going to work because I don't have internet on it, but it'll at least get the nag screen out of our face. Perfect. And now connect it to, I don't know that I want to connect it to Wi-Fi. I think what I'll do is I've got a USB to Ethernet adapter, and I think that's just cleaner when I'm broadcasting live. So I'm going to plug in a USB to Ethernet adapter. Since this laptop is wireless only, any laptop that advertises itself as being thin likely doesn't have an Ethernet jack. But let's see if that'll work for us. I'll say no to this, and then we're going to go to update. Check for updates. And this thing, one of the first things you need to do when you get a brand new computer is look for all the missing updates. And while we're waiting for that, we can take a look at the specs on this laptop, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Right now you're watching youtube.com/Carey-Holzman/live. That will always get you to my live videos. And I'm going to pause the screen so we don't have too much of a loop back here, but you'll see it shows how many people are watching, and it says more. If I click more, these are all the video notes. I'm always asking you guys to read the darn video notes. You see they put all this effort into creating all these links. Anyway, the very first link is always the subject matter of the video. That's the VivoBook S15 S533 with my Amazon link. If I click on it, it's going to take me directly to the Amazon site and specifically to the product page. This is the Core i5-1135G7 processor. This is the exact model that you're looking at here on the screen that I ordered and that we have with us today for this unboxing and overview. You'll see the price, $599, and it's Windows 10 Home. It's the Resolute Red. It's Wi-Fi 6. It's got a 512 gig Nvme drive with the 8 gigs of soldered on DDR4 RAM that is not upgradable in any way. It's a 15.6 inch. It's the FHD display. And as we scroll down, you have a little bit more information about the product, including the keys are lit up. So if you're looking at the keyboard when it's in a dark room, you can see the keyboard does not stay lit up. It only lights up when you're typing, and then after you don't type for a little while, I believe the keyboard will shut itself off. Let's see, that's brightness. Sometimes there's a function key to manually turn the keyboard off. I'm not quite sure. However, the keyboard does light up, and there is a fingerprint sensor on the touchpad. So if you wanted to use that for signing into the laptop rather than a password, works very similarly to how you might sign into a phone with a fingerprint. And then all the other information about the laptop is here on the Amazon page. There's the fingerprint sensor. What does this say? Yeah, the backlit keyboard. We're just talking about that. And what's the other thing that's highlighted? It's equipped with a USB 3.2 Type-C, a USB 3.2 Type-A, and USB 2.0 ports with an HDMI output and a micro SD card reader. That's the card reader right there. And then you have like a power light and I think a hard drive activity light. Why they put them on the side where you can't see them, I don't understand. They have a smaller version, a 13-inch screen. They have a 14-inch screen. And then they have the i7 version of the S15, which is what we're using, which has 16 gigs of RAM. Obviously, with the i7 processor and double the RAM, who wants to guess the price? It's another $260 to pay for the difference in the processor and the RAM. And, you know, obviously the $600 price or $599 is far more attractive to most people, even though its retail suggested price on this is $729. I was just clicking on that to see what it would say. Yeah, $729. So it's about $130 off, or 18% off suggested retail. And you can look at the reviews, see how it's doing on reviews. It's got 343 ratings with an average of 4.6 out of 5 stars. So most of the reviews are, 79% of the reviews are 5-star reviews. Only 6% of the people who bought it gave it a 1-star, and only 2%, which is likely one person, gave it a 3-star. So, you know, there you have, I think, you know, where you're looking for proper expectations. This is what we sent Jack. The screen is great. I have no issues with the screen. It's bright, it's crisp. This is what, waiting for install. We got a lot of missing updates here, a lot of them. And it's downloading the display driver. Yeah, I mean, this doesn't even have 21H1, let alone 21H2. So I had a feeling this was an older version of Windows when we were going through that setup. So that's okay. Like I said, this was probably built a year ago. It's probably been sitting on a shelf that long. And that's probably why the Windows install is so old. So we have a lot of updating to do, and these updates are very important. They're not optional. This is one of the first things you should do, and it might be frustrating. You got a brand new computer, you want to use it, but I'm telling you, first thing you ought to do, get all these updates installed. And if it takes 2-3 hours, whatever it takes, BIOS updates, I can't emphasize how important that is. And I would do that for every computer before I would ever deliver it to a customer, so I would avoid any liability regarding customers' data loss or identity theft. So while that is running, let's switch back over to camera 1. Maybe we can put camera 1 and this HDMI on the same screen. Let's see what can I do with this. Can I just move this down? Put it over here. Let's just do that. We'll keep an eye on that. And if you have questions for me, please ask in the chat. I'll do what I can to provide you with an answer. Adoptable Joshi says, wow, you can't change the RAM. If you want to spend more money on a laptop with identical specs but with changeable RAM, all you have to do is open your wallet a little bit more and you can get that. But I don't think this is a wow moment when you see the price. I think you have to really understand that in this industry, you do get what you pay for. If you're going to pay less, you're going to get less. And it's not always something you can tell from the outside or from the specs. It's something that you will learn after you buy it. And then likely after its warranty and you want to upgrade something, that is likely when people find out, oh, the RAM is soldered in. Well, that's the next question is, well, how much did you pay for this? And it's one of the cheapest laptops that has this processor and also has Nvme storage and Windows 10 Home and Wi-Fi 6. I don't think there's a competitor out there that is going to be made by a big brand manufacturer, whether that's Dell or HP or ASUS or Acer or Razer. I can't see how they can get the price any lower than this for everything you're getting. If you had to buy everything individually, if you bought the keyboard, if you bought a touchpad, if you bought a 15-inch LCD screen, if you bought the battery, if you bought the charger, if you bought the Nvme drive, if you bought the CPU, like if you bought all that, you'd probably be up around $800, I'd have to guess. Between $700 and $800. That's if you did it yourself. So the manufacturer, by doing it this way, it's a way to reduce the cost. So consumers have to pick one thing or the other. You know, if you want the Rolls Royce, you need to pay Rolls Royce money. If you want, if you're okay with the Chevy Spark, just don't confuse the two, right? Or you're just going to be in for a lifetime of disappointment. That's all I have to say about that. Peter Laycock joins us, contributes 50 pounds, and says, good morning, Carey, and everyone in the chat room. All the best from Bonnie, Scotland. Hey, Peter, thank you so much, as always, for your continued support and your generosity. You know, those routers, we ended up giving away 12 of them. 12 of the routers were sent out, and that's all thanks to Peter Laycock. In fact, the budget on that was about $500, and we were able to send out these routers to almost everybody who asked. And it was a little over $500 for 12 of them, but keep in mind ASUS's flagship router is $499.99. So you could buy one router for $500 or 12. Obviously, if you're expecting the lower end router to have the bells, whistles, features, range, and performance of the high-end router, once again, you get what you pay for. It's not that it's a bad router, it's a great router for $50. It's a fantastic router for $50. It's a fair router at $80, to be honest. When you start getting the price higher, then you can start expecting more. But as you get the price lower, you need to also expect less, because you'll be the one who's wrong. You're going to be the one who has unreasonable expectations. If all you're looking at is the price and you think everything else is the same, oh, I'm glad I'm not you, because you are going to be in for a world of disappointment when the reality of what you bought has hit you. So all I'm suggesting is you do enough research to understand what you're buying, so that way you don't end up being somebody who's got buyer's remorse. I run into this all the time, and it usually occurs years, at least a year after the laptop or the desktop was purchased, before the customers ever need anything done to them. And then that's when I have to tell them, you can't do anything to these. They're bargain basement. You know, it was probably the cheapest thing you could buy that had that level of performance. And, you know, if you wanted something upgradable, you should have spent more. And if they would have spent more, they probably wouldn't need to be upgrading it after a year. So it's just about setting your expectations. That's all I'm trying to do here. Doesn't make it good or bad. It just it doesn't change what it is, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't know what happened here, but I'm going to close that, and we can close this and take us back to the desktop, and we'll go back to Windows Update and see what it's doing. This should refresh the screen and give us an idea of where we're at. So even though we can restart now, it's in the process of installing items, and I think I'm just going to let it go through and install. And if you guys have any questions for me, I'd be happy to address that. Well, we wait for this to do what it needs to do. Kelly Stewart said his laptop is reversible, meaning you can use it as a 15-inch tablet or fold the screen completely back. As a 15-inch tablet, it would just be a little thicker than a tablet, right? Because the screen would fold all the way back. Or it's a regular 15-inch laptop when the screen is in this position. Those convertible laptops, those have been around a long time. And some people like that. They're obviously going to have a touch screen. If they're a tablet, you have to be able to touch the screen. I specifically wanted a laptop that did not have a touch screen. This update is not moving, which has me concerns. Because it's still at 0% here, it hasn't moved. I'm going to go ahead and hit restart now because maybe it's stuck on something, and we'll let it reboot, and we'll continue those Windows updates and keep rebooting and checking for updates until we are completely updated and no more updates are offered. Like I said, this could be 2 or 3 hours on a brand new machine before you actually settle in to start installing your software and your printers and all that other stuff. And I definitely recommend you do this first, because if there's any problems with the laptop, this is a good way to suss those out and make sure that you're not getting too much time invested in customizing a laptop you need to send back and then take all your personal stuff off of it. So this is a great way to test the laptop while you're updating it to make sure everything's running like it should, and it gives the ample time for the battery to charge back up to 100%, which, as I mentioned, is critical on any new device you're buying with a battery in it, a Bluetooth speaker, whatever it is. You should always charge that all the way up. You can use it while it's being charged, but I would avoid unplugging or interrupting the charging on that first charge. Todd says he's got a Windows 98 PC. Do I know where I can get the quick restore CDs? Well, Windows 98 is 25 years old, something like that. Anybody using Windows 98, you might as well be using DOS 3.0. I don't know why anybody in the world would do that to themselves, but I'm sure there are plenty of hobbyist YouTube channels where there are people that, have the nostalgia for the old stuff. I run a business, a computer repair business. Nobody is going to call me and ask me to repair a Windows 98 computer because it'll cost more than it's worth. And the YouTube channel is an extension of my business. Whereas hobbyists and enthusiasts that are just looking for something to do, they find some entertainment in it. They might restore some old computer just to see how this 486 used to work. I don't have time for that. It's very costly for me because I have so many customers waiting for my time. So for that reason, I don't have an answer for you. But I can tell you, once you have a computer that's about 10 years old, it's nearly impossible to get it fixed. You have to sort of figure everything out on your own. You have to get creative and find your own sources for parts. You have to gamble oftentimes with those sources. If you go on eBay, you never quite know if you're dealing with a legit seller. If what you're ordering is coming from China, it's very inexpensive for China to ship stuff to us. And it's about 100 times more for you to ship something back to China. So you might buy something for $10 that has free shipping from China that'll cost you $25 in shipping to send back. That is very common. And when you're dealing with old parts like that, that's just part of your gamble. I've seen people spend $1,000 on a $100 computer, and it doesn't make any sense to me. They're not spending $1,000, all at once. They're spending $10, $50, $80. And when you add it all up over the course of time, yeah, it's often way more money they spent. It doesn't have to be $1,000, but it's more than, far, far more than the thing they're working on's value. And even when they put all that money in it, the value did not go up. Nobody wants it. It's really landfill material, recyclable material, or museum material. But if you're doing it for fun, man, that's something you brought on yourself. I don't find that to be fun. It's like, hey, you want to help me put an addition on my house? Most people will say, in 115-degree weather? No, that doesn't sound like fun. That sounds like work that you would pay me for. And even then, I don't want to do it. This is a long restart. It is a long restart because it's still doing some updating in the background. Even though it doesn't say that on the screen, that is what's happening. Remember, it was at 0% for a long time? Well, whatever hanging that up, it's trying to finish that before it allows the restart to occur. So we just need to be patient. So many of you are so impatient. I have no doubt that many of you create your own problems because your impatience gets in the way. And then instead of waiting 20 or 30 minutes for something to finish, you interrupt it, you force it off, and then the machine doesn't boot up right, and it'll spend the next 2-3 hours trying to fix it. It's no way to start off a new machine's introduction, because once you've soured on it, especially during a first impression, you probably won't gain any trust in the system for a very long time. And yet it wasn't the system's fault, it was the end user's fault for being impatient. So when things like this happen, especially on a new machine, I suggest you give that a good 20 to 30 minutes. Now, after 20 or 30 minutes, if it still hasn't budged and we're still seeing the cycling, something's wrong, and then we can force it off. Because at that point, I don't think you have a choice. But more than likely, we're not going to have to do that. If we remain patient, I'm sure it's going to finish whatever it's doing. And as long as we don't interrupt it, everything should function perfectly. So it's all about leaving something alone rather than interfering. Madi Yoel contributes $5. It says, hello, hey, Madi, good to see you, my friend. Craig says it's going to hang on to this screen forever. Craig is wrong. You know, what's interesting about the internet is how boldly people will announce their ignorance, and they'll disguise it in confidence. You know, I'm the guy that's got a computer shop. I'm the guy with over 30 years of experience professionally in the industry, and I still work in the industry today. So if you want to believe somebody who comes into a chat room or a Reddit forum who you have no idea who they are, you know, why should you believe what they're saying until you've identified what's the source of this information? So I would strongly advise you to listen to the guy with experience. Not that the guy or gal with experience is always right. However, they are likely more right than some random person on the internet who has no impulse control and thinks they know everything. It's quite insulting. It'd be like if a student was correcting a teacher, and I don't know what people are thinking when they do it. But what scares me is there may be people in the chat room who see their comments and believe them. And that's what frightens me the most. So I hope before you believe anybody online, you know who is the one doing the talking and what their background is that you can verify before you decide whether or not their advice is worth listening to. All right, so we did that, and we're going to go back to Windows Update. Check for updates again. And yeah, so we're right back over here to this install, and we'll go ahead and see if that will move further than it did before. Likely it would have just continued. Yeah, see, it's always a matter of patience. And so the people who don't have patience are the ones who have the most problems. And they create their own problems. I guess I'm Scotty Kilmer today. I'm going to be using my hands. They create their problems. Scotty. Through their own impatience. All right. It doesn't matter to me. I get paid, right? That people call me. How do I fix this? I go over there to fix it. And they say, well, how did that happen? Like, well, you were impatient. You didn't let it finish. And now they're going to pay me. Instead of, you know, letting the thing finish, they would have never needed to call me, wait for me to come out, and they wouldn't have needed to spend the money. Or in some cases, they box the whole thing up and send it back to the manufacturer, claiming they sent them a bad one. So, all right, so the screen is blanked out for some reason. I think it's loading a video driver. The screen just flashed at me. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. A video driver loaded. And then I will, it's installing a cumulative update. I'm not going to interrupt that. I'll let that finish and then I'll restart again and we'll run through this process again. We have to get 21H1, 21H2 after that. We could immediately just go to 21H2, but I'm testing the laptop. I'm getting a feel for how fast it is, and I also want to make sure that everything installs correctly. So I want to grab every single update in the order I would have received those updates if I bought this laptop a year ago when the operating system was put on it, right? Because those updates wouldn't have been available. Let's say 21H1 would have come out, 6-7 months later 21H2 would have come out. And so I would have gotten those updates naturally. I'm trying to mimic the same natural progression of updates without skipping any, just as a way to test that the laptop is installing the updates correctly. And it's a great burn-in test. If it can do this, no other burn-in test is necessary. This is pretty resource intensive. This is testing your RAM, it's testing your storage, it's testing your internet connection, it's pushing your CPU. This is a wonderful way to burn in a computer, is having an hour's worth of updates to install, unless there's installation issues. And that can point you to file corruptions, bad RAM, or other issues that would justify sending the laptop back. The only difference is you need to be patient enough to let the updates finish. If you interrupt those updates, then you're the one creating the problems where you would have otherwise have had a problem-free machine. Garcia Boy says, I know very little, just ask me and I can prove it. If only more people were humble and modest online and perhaps honest. I find people who say they know very little often know a lot more than they lead on to, and people who claim to know a lot often know less than they claim to. But the proof is in the pudding, and it's really up to you and your responsibility to vet out any information to determine if what you're being told is real or not. There's a lot of gaslighting going on, a lot of deep fake stuff is happening, and people get enjoyment out of seeing how gullible other people are. They just think it's hilarious, so you're the butt of the joke. How does that make you feel? So again, I would absolutely consider the source of anybody talking to find out why they should be heard. Just because they have vocal cords and they have a right to free speech doesn't mean anything they've got to be saying is anything you're interested in. You know, you can go to a sporting event where the stands are loaded with people in attendance. They're all screaming and shouting their free speech. I can't make out a word of it. So it kind of reminds me of Twitter. It's just like noise. It's like dogs barking. It's a human version of barking. And if you're trying to find sincere, authentic, genuine information in all the noise and static, it's a little like dumpster diving. You know, somewhere in the dumpster fire that is the internet, there's little gems. If you dig down deep enough and you get through enough garbage, you'll find there is treasure in there. It's a little tiny bit, but it's in there. But you really got to work hard to find it most of the time on the internet. MGJ Multimedia says, what's your opinion on Windows 11? Well, I mean, what do you do with Windows 11 that you can't already do on Windows 10? What would be a reason you would have? Can anybody give me a reason to justify going to Windows 11 and having to relearn all the different things Microsoft has moved around? Just one reason? Anybody? I'm going to let that sit. You can go Google, see if you can look something up. If you can answer that question, I think you already know what my opinion of Windows 11 is based on that question. Andrew says, are you working on a VivoBook? Andrew, what is the title of this video? You know, we can take a look at that together, since now that's the second person that's asked me the question. I don't know, when you guys are clicking on videos, do you know what you're clicking on? I'm just curious, because that's not how I use the internet. So if you go to YouTube, let's say I'm you, and I'm going to YouTube, all right? And I want to look at Carey Holzman's videos. I see this video right here says it's a live unboxing and review of ASUS VivoBook S15 S533. And if I click on it, right down here it says live unboxing and review right on the video you're watching. And if I scroll a little further down under the number of people watching, it says live unboxing and review. So it's 3 times. How did you not, help me understand, how did you not know what the subject of the video was before you clicked on it? And I'm sincere. I don't understand where the miscommunication's happening. Am I not doing something right? What am I missing where you guys aren't seeing the obvious that's right in front of you? Is it not in front of you? Are you seeing my videos some other way that doesn't show the titles? Help me understand how this miscommunication happens, please, so I can fix what's broken. Madi says, hello, can you see me? No. Can you hear me? No, I can't hear you. Then how did you know to answer my question? No, I can't see you, Madi. Well, then how did you know? It's probably because I can see you. Oh, we see you, Madi. Andrew says, I was confused as if the screen was also the VivoBook or a separate repair. Why would you think it was a separate repair? That's, again, I don't understand why. Do you just make stuff up in your head? And I'm not doing this to make fun of you. I'm sincere. Like, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. If there was a repair, wouldn't I put that in the title of the video? I'm just very concerned. You also didn't watch this video from the beginning, right? You jumped right into it. You didn't rewind to see what you missed. And because you can't be bothered to go back and start at the beginning, you want to ask what's going on. So, you know, do you remember when you went to school and you were tardy and how upset that made the teacher? Well, you know, the teacher's there teaching the class, and what's he supposed to do, or she's supposed to do? Just reteach the class everything from when you weren't there because you missed it? And so oftentimes what happened to students when I went to school is if you were more than about 10 minutes late to class, you were just sent to the principal's office. You weren't even allowed in the classroom, because to pick up, 10 minutes of missing information meant the rest of the lesson you were just going to be left behind, and it would be kind of pointless. And yet to catch you up meant all the other students would have to sit through that. So that's sort of what's happening here, I'm guessing. I don't know what I can do to fix it. I don't think that's on me to fix, but it does. If you could imagine being in my shoes, it just gets a little frustrating. These videos are completely rewindable right now while it's live. You can rewind the video. Look, let me show you. We'll go back to YouTube. We're going to click on the Edge browser here, since that's what we got. And we're going to go to YouTube Reno. I'm not used to this keyboard. It's spaced a little differently than the one on my Dell XPS keyboard. We click on the video and I go, oh, this video's been live. Oh, I gotta wait for the ads. We'll skip that. Okay, so it says the video has been live. It started 54 minutes ago. That's what it says right here. Then I go, oh gosh, I don't want to interrupt and ask what they're doing. What I'll do is I'll rewind this video, because that's how videos work. And then I can go right back to the beginning, and if I want, I can even speed the video up. I can come over here, over to settings, playback speed. I can make the playback speed 1.5 times faster so I can catch up faster. And, if you see me rambling on about something, you can just kind of jump through a little bit until eventually you can get caught up with us. So, yeah, I'd love to see more people take advantage of that. That's why the feature is there. So if some of you, I'm guessing, just don't know that, And rather than assume that you're being lazy or you can't be bothered, I'm going to assume you didn't know. So the My ASUS application is another thing we need to use to check for updates. However, I want to get the Windows updates first. So ASUS Switch is like Samsung Switch. If you have a Samsung Galaxy phone, you can move all your apps and pictures and stuff over from one phone to the other with Samsung Switch. ASUS has got ASUS Switch, which provides an easy platform for transferring files, applications, and related system settings to other ASUS devices. We're going to skip that. And then they want you to sign up and become a member. I don't want to do that. I'm just going to enter the home page. And I'm not real happy with the way ASUS has done this. It's saying there's new updates. I click I understand, and then it's going to walk me through all this warranty information. I'm going to skip this. I'll hit next. I got to do this 4 times. There's 2 of 4, 3 of 4. Okay, then it's going to say get it now, but I don't want it, and there was no way for me to cancel it. And it's not letting me close out of this. Back to home page. Back to home page. Okay. So where's my updates? You think there'd be something here for updates, right? But if you look over here, we've got battery capacity. We've got, I have to say Dell and HP do this far, far better. Right here it says it says new updates. Your device has been updated to the latest version. Okay, I don't know. Latest version of what? No idea. It says your system is up to date. I know for a fact this system is not up to date. So if I click check updates history, even though it doesn't appear to be a button, it says no available updates in download history. And yet here it says 17 updates. Okay, so if I click on the 17 updates, hey, there's a BIOS update. Well, guess what? You have to download all these updates. You hit the download button, and it's going to download the installation files like you had a custom-built computer. This doesn't work the way updates should on a pre-built. So it wants to know, when you download these files, where do you want to put them? They shouldn't be asking the user this. I want them to go in my downloads directory, okay? And then you just sit and wait for all of these things to download. Now, when those little circles become, have the little folder emblem, that means it saved the file into the folder you just selected. And it's going to do that for all of these files, all 17 of them. And you won't really want to do anything until all these files are downloaded. But in the meantime, while we're doing this, we're still grabbing Windows updates. Now, this is interesting because that cumulative update has not budged. It's still at 0% installing. And this can happen for a couple of reasons. You'll also see that there's an ASUS Tech firmware update. That may be the BIOS coming from over here. So now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and let these finish downloading, because otherwise I have to start all over again the next time, and I don't want to waste time by doing it twice. I like to do things once, and I think we got everything downloaded now, but nothing's installed. We have to open the folder and manually click on each file, no differently than if you downloaded it on a desktop computer you custom built. I think that sucks. I think ASUS needs to do a far better job with this, but we're not ready for that yet anyway, because like I said, so much of this is going to already happen from Windows Update. And you see the screen, when it gives me all this blue over here, there's like 2 different windows open. They seem to be locked together. Something's wrong. So what I want to do is go back down here and just restart the Windows Update. It doesn't interrupt Windows Update, by the way. See, so that did install. It stuck at 0% because the screen was frozen. It was a false flag. So it did finish installing. And you'll see we don't have that blue over here anymore. That's something going on with this laptop. That's not a normal Windows 10 feature. So we're going to go ahead and tap the Restart Now button and let those updates complete. So we'll go ahead and let those install finish. Do you have any other questions for me? The technical questions? Is there a problem you're trying to solve that I might be able to help you with? I get paid to fix computers. It's what I've been doing for over 30 years, and I make good money doing it. I'm offering to do that for free to those of you who have any issues. I'm offering to help you for what I would normally charge people for. So if you'd like to take advantage of it, it's a pretty good deal for you, and I'd love to help you. I sent Michael Dane that FSP power supply, and he went to plug it in and heard a loud pop. That's not good. So I suggested Michael contact FSP for a warranty. Ah, yeah, see, there's a BIOS update here. You can't see it because the HDMI only initializes with Windows. So that is our BIOS update that's coming in from Windows Update, not from the ASUS update. Remember, all that did was download files. I haven't run any of those files. And this is why I don't want to. I don't want to overlap updates. So we're going to go ahead and install this update. And if I come around to the front here, it's saying Easy Flash Utility will allow you to update to the latest version of the BIOS. Do not shut down or remove external power from your computer during this process. The BIOS update will start in 60 seconds. So again, I don't have to touch anything right here. This BIOS update is going to start on its own. If I want to be impatient and I want to move the mouse down and click yes, I don't have to wait for the 60 seconds. And now it says, warning, BIOS upgrade is processing. Don't turn off your computer. Do not turn off your computer. So you'll see I still have the screen open to your left. And then when this reboots into Windows, then that screen over here will show you the desktop. And Richard Palmatier joins us. Welcome in, Richard. And there's Patrick Rousseau joining us from Syracuse, New York. Matt is wondering what the read and write speeds of the Nvme drive in this laptop are. That's a good question, Matt. We can certainly run Crystal Diskmark on it once I complete all the updates, because I want to make sure that we're measuring the drive performance accurately. So to do that, we want to make sure we have all the updates installed before, otherwise our results may not reflect the true results once all the updates are in. So we'll definitely, don't let me forget. You might have to remind me because we wait for all the updates. So this BIOS update has finished. It's all hands off. You leave it alone. You stay patient, and it's going to restart all by itself. It may restart more than once, and it may still continue to update the BIOS after the first restart. That would be normal if it does, and normal if it doesn't. Each manufacturer, even between models, may do that differently, as depending on the needs requirements of the BIOS for the particular board. See, that's restarted twice now. Now it looks like the Windows loading, looks like a toilet bowl flushing that circle, and it's going to load the desktop. As soon as the desktop loads, then the driver loads for the HDMI, and you'll see it pops up over here, and I can turn this back around so I can seize it. Is this a 2022 laptop? I don't know what you mean by that, Richard. I literally just ordered it 3 days ago, and it's 2022. So I don't understand your question. Richard is asking about the manufacturing date on the laptop. Does the laptop have a manufacturing date on it? I don't know. No, it just seems to have a serial number. Usually the serial number is tied to, oh wait, manufactured December of 2021. So I guess the answer to your question is no, it's not a 2022 laptop, but that doesn't mean if you order the same laptop that yours won't be made in 2022, right? This specific one was made in December of 21, and when that existing inventory is exhausted and replenished, it's like when you go to the grocery store and you buy bread, you know? And if I had to pick the laptop out of the warehouse myself, I'd have dug in deep like a loaf of bread and get the newer. But I'm sure that's why we're missing so many updates, right? But even with a December of 21 update, you'd think it would have had 21H2 on it. But apparently they're using an old image in the factory. There's costs to build a new image and test it. So I'm sure that's why ASUS hasn't updated it. But it just means you just have to spend a little bit more time when you purchase it to go through the update process. And again, it's what keeps the laptop cheaper. We'll click on View Optional Updates. It wants me to install, let's see, the Windows 21H1 and what's under drivers. Oh, I want every single one of these. Even if some of these, like these subcomponents, even if one of them is actually all you need, there is no harm whatsoever in any duplication. You're not really saving any time on a high-speed internet connection, and the amount of time it takes you to think about it, it would have already installed. So I can't imagine somebody having that kind of personality where they've got to nitpick every little update. I'm saying grab them all and don't worry about it. This isn't 1997 anymore, or even 2005 anymore, where Windows updates often got drivers wrong. And so it was critical that you were, paying attention to what your drivers were. Not with Windows 10. For the most part, it's a pretty rare occurrence that it's going to offer you a driver that will result in something not working. It still happens, but it doesn't happen like it used to. It's pretty rare in my experience. Let's go ahead and hit restart. So just grab it all. Ben wants to know what processor and RAM. We've covered this 3 times, Ben. If you just rewind your video back or look at the video notes underneath the video, all the specs for the laptop are at the Amazon link. Hey, there's Mike Embry joining us. Carey, my toys are awesome. Thank you so much. Let's make sure. So Mike is a disabled American veteran. I got to meet him for the first time tonight. And he lost everything in a fire. And I drove over to his place and I brought him a motherboard, processor, RAM, 500 gig Nvme storage, a case, a power supply, and one of those TP-Link routers. Because he wanted something to put together. Because I asked him, I'm like, I got stuff put together, or, you seem like the kind of guy that would like to put it together yourself. And I know all the parts work. Many of the parts were new power supply, new storage. I think the motherboard and the CPU were used. Case was brand new in a box. Power supply brand new in a box. Anyway, I figured he was probably going to have it built in 10 minutes. I told him, take your time. And then I said, I got to go. I'm going to go do a live video tonight. But I said, if I see you in the chat room, I'll turn you blue. And that's why I opened the chat up tonight for everybody, so he could jump in, and that way he can join us in future chat room live videos where those are members only. So yeah, that didn't take him long to get that up and running. Fantastic. It should be a really nice machine for him too. It's a Core i5 9400K. All right, back to Windows Update again. We're just going to keep repeating, and it should offer us 21H2 after this next checkup. Lawn Dog says building your own computer is a great experience. Many people think that, and many other people think it's a nightmare. So it just kind of depends on the individual. And, you know, respect it either way. It's good either way. Sari Yerblue says, well, building mine took 4 to 5 times longer than any of you probably take, but I did it. It ain't a race, you know? I always tell people, slow down, enjoy your build. I even told Mike when I dropped the parts off, I'm like, I know you're going to put this together quickly. I'm going to suggest you slow down and really enjoy it, because it's everything was all there and put together. As far as, you know, I know the board worked. I know the CPU was good. He had to put the cooler on. I gave him one of the RGB Hyper 212s I had, because I don't like those coolers anymore, but it's more than adequate for an i5 9400K. And it was brand new in a box. And I said, just enjoy your process, man, you know? And even then, even taking his time and doing it, he still got it done super fast. All right, I bet he didn't do any cable management on it, though. Let's go back to what other driver updates we're missing. Okay, Realtek. We'll download and install that. That's probably a sound driver or network driver. I guess it's got to be sound, because I think the network card in this is an Intel card, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so what we don't have is 21H2, apparently. Now, 21H2 should be offered to us in time, but if we want to force it, and I've shown how to do this before, I can force that by just typing in download Windows 10. And the first site that comes up, if I were to use Google instead of Bing, is from Microsoft.com, download Windows 10. This is all legal. Of course this is legal. Now here's the Windows 10 November 2021 update. That's the 21H2. I can wait for it to automatically come down, or I can force it by hitting the Update Now button. And it says, here's your Windows upgrade file. You click on that once and click Yes, and then it's going to open this dialog box and, you know, update to the latest version of Windows 10, blah, blah, blah. I hit the Update Now button. It makes sure everything's compatible. I hit Next, and we just can close things out in the background and be patient and wait. As it says, you're fine to keep using the PC in this case. If we wanted to watch YouTube videos or do something else while this is happening, you can. My preference is, like everything else, just leave it alone. I don't want to be interrupted when it reboots and I'm in the middle of a video, so I'd rather not start it, or, you know, be in the middle of working on something only to have this thing, you know, pop up a window saying, hey, I'm ready to restart whenever you are. And if I'm typing and I hit enter and it defaults to okay, and I'm like, wait, that's not what I meant. So I just stick with the rule. Just leave it alone when it's updating, and then you don't deal with that stress. And you know, the other good thing is I have all these parts around here. And so when Mike was talking about needing a computer, all I could think of was, what can I get out of here? I have so much to pick from. And the case I gave him is I think a Cooler Master case, which was micro ATX only. So I was like, I got to find a micro ATX board, you know. And then I had a bunch of power supplies that Silverstone sent me, so I gave him one of those. I gave him a 750 watt power supply just in case he wants to add a GPU. He's using onboard video at the moment, but I wanted to make sure if he wanted to add a GPU in the future, he'd always have that ability with that 750 watt non-modular power supply. Fred Sunderman says, it's getting late in Connecticut. Good night, all of you. I'll see you next time. All right, Fred, well, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Ian McLeod said, I had a blast making my wife's PC tonight. Took my time and it paid off. She is rocking and rolling. Right on, Ian. That's the way you do it, my friend. That's how it's done. Enjoy your build, take your time, be patient. Cerise says, built my last PC in 2016 because I was scared, but I've learned now. Hey, you know, the best way to deal with your fear is to face it, and you'll probably find out you had absolutely no justification for being afraid. That's the wonderful thing about fear. F-E-A-R, false expectations appearing real. That's what it stands for, F-E-A-R. False expectations appearing real. And if you actually experience it, you probably find out you'd probably feel silly that you were afraid of it. So, yes. Fear holds so many people back from their potential, and they justify it because they didn't get hurt. Life is tough, and the older you get, the harder life gets. Getting old is not for weak people. So anything you can do to build up your strength and your intelligence through your experience, even if it includes some minor injury, totally worth it. If it's major injury, different story. So there's some calculated risk one would take. You know, there's a number of times I was working on my car when I was first learning how to work on cars, where I was very intimidated by all of the different parts of an engine. It was kind of frightening. But when my hand, when the wrench slipped, and then my hand punched into the side of the engine block and cut my knuckles open, and I was bleeding, there was a little pain involved in that learning experience. I mean, that didn't happen more than 5 or 6 times before I finally learned, maybe don't hold the wrench that way, or, if you're going to push really hard on a bolt in case it slips, think ahead of time. Where's my hand going to go in case this slips? And I don't do that anymore. So it made me stronger. Was it Eleanor Roosevelt said, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. All of these cliches exist because people exhibit a very common behavior. It's like you're born with it. Well, you're definitely not born with it. You're not born with it. This is a disease adults get. Kids are very brave. Kids will do really ridiculous and stupid stuff. For one reason, they think they're never going to die. When they're babies, they don't know any better. They'll stick something in a light socket just to see what happens. But when we start falling down and injuring ourselves, and when it starts taking longer for us to heal, we tend to get this disease where we're afraid to do anything. Well, you know who else doesn't do anything? Dead people. So if you're alive, I would suggest you take advantage of that. Well, you can, because you won't be alive forever. And you can always forgive yourself for things you did, but you'll never be able to forgive yourself for things you didn't do. Regret for things left undone is inconsolable. And I hope you don't reach the end of your life before you realize that. Every day is a gift and an opportunity to create, repair, fix, receive some kind of fulfillment. And that brings joy and happiness. It will pull you from depression in many cases. People have depression for different reasons, but a lot of people suffer from depression because they have no fulfillment, because they don't do anything, because they're afraid of failure. It's a vicious cycle. Now, why this came up on its own, I have no idea. I didn't click on anything to bring that up, so I'm going to close that. Again, I just want one thing happening at a time here, and it's just downloading this large 21H2 update. It's about 5 gigs. And if we wait for the 21H2 to come from Windows Update, it installs really quickly. If we do it ourselves, it like reinstalls all of Windows, and it takes a while. I don't know why it performs 2 different ways. But I just want to get it done, and I want to show you the process that I, as a real professional working in the industry, this is the process I do because it ensures that I don't have to come back to the customer's location to finish a job. I need to, or if I've got let's say this laptop belonged to a customer, I can't sit around waiting for whenever Windows decides it's going to issue me the 21H2 update and then tell all the other customers, I don't have time to work on your machines. So what I have to do to stay in business is I have to force the update, make sure everything goes accordingly so that I can finish the job and get paid. Once that happens, I can start the next job. So I try to emphasize to people that when you're working in the industry as a professional, you're going to find professionals often do things in a very different way than hobbyists and enthusiasts. And that includes the things we say and the seriousness with which we say them, because we hold liability, accountability, and responsibility if what we say and do to a paying client ends up costing that client some losses financially. We can be sued for that. Plus, whatever else the client wants to see you for, punitive damages, pain and suffering. Who knows how clever their attorney can be. Hobbyists don't really have that problem. Hobbyists only answer themselves. They really don't have any deadline. They can do whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want, and they answer to nobody. They can say anything they want. They can tell you, oh yeah, I reviewed this, it's good. And even if it's not good, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you make that purchase, whether you like it or not, has no impact on that content creator, because they're just a hobbyist. They have no liability. So when I'm making my videos and I'm emphasizing that I'm a professional, I'm hoping what I'm getting across to you is that unlike the hobbyists and enthusiasts, and I've got nothing against hobbyists and enthusiasts other than this is not fully disclosed on their videos like I think it should be. Warning, hobbyist activity, versus professional activity. I think professional activities have liability and accountability. Hobbyist and enthusiast activities do not. So hobbyists and enthusiasts will talk about liquid cooling and RGB lighting and overclocking. They'll talk about custom liquid coolers. They'll talk about adding a bunch of fans. They'll talk about stuff you would never ever do, where you'd be very unlikely to do this in the professional world, especially if you're working in corporate America. This just isn't done. None of that is done. They often misinform with old, outdated information. They'll say things like solid state drives have a limited amount of writing, and then they fail. They don't fail. It's not how it works. They'll say, well, if you leave data on a solid state drive long enough, the data fades away. Show me. Nobody's been able to ever prove that. They're theorists. It's all just theory. It's all math on a piece of paper, but it's not an exact science, and yet it doesn't stop them from spouting it as though it were fact, when in fact nobody's ever seen that happen. Never has anybody just seen data disappear on its own. And by the way, that same theory exists on any form of media. You leave a VHS tape out long enough, the material just starts to fade away. The magnetic strength of the signal starts to fade. Same with a hard disk drive. No different. I've been in this business over 30 years. I have never seen a drive taken off a shelf that's been on a shelf for years and years and years, plugged it in, and the data was gone. I even did an example on that when I was at Studio A. I found an old solid state drive that was about 8 years old, hadn't been powered on in 8 years. And I said, okay, this is a live video. I'm going to power it on. How many of you think the data is going to be gone? Some of you thought the data would be gone. I said, there's no way the data's gone. No way. Don't believe it. I've got flash drives sitting in a drawer that are 12 years old. The data that I put on them 12 years ago is still on them. Of course, every time I plug them in to check, I'm recharging, theoretically, the NAND memory. So, how do you run that test? You'd have to get a stack of drives, get a stack of solid state drives, and call year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, go all the way to year 10. And after year 1, plug year 1 in, see if the data's there. Make sure they all have the same data on all 10 drives. Once you plug it in, you've recharged it, that test starts, that's done. Then wait on the second year, do the second drive, and do this all the way up to 10 years. None of those drives are going to lose data. But if you listen to the hobbyists, if you listen to researchers, researchers are the best, because all researchers do is based pretty much on theory. Now, if they can prove it, different story. But when a researcher just making up stuff as a theory, what a waste of time and anxiety-driven, fear-driven. I don't get on board with it. It's just theory. They just sit around all day finding ways to come up with reasons to scare people. As far as I can tell, well, technically this is possible. Okay, but has it ever happened before? Well, no, but it could. But has it ever happened before? Well, I'm just saying that, there's an exploit in this Intel processor. How long has that exploit been around? 12 years. So if nothing's happened in 12 years, you thought it would be a good idea to bring it to everybody's attention? That would be like me leaving my back door unlocked for 12 years. And then I come online, and by the way, leaving the back door unlocked for 12 years, and no one's ever broken into my house, not once. And I decide to go online and tell the world I leave my back door unlocked. What do you think's going to happen? Hey, he leaves his back door unlocked. Let's go over there. So some of these researchers. So the researchers, the hobbyists, and the enthusiasts are the bane to being a professional. Someone who's actually in the trenches, actually doing the work, seeing the problems that real customers have real problems that they're hiring you to solve with liability, accountability, responsibility. And where are the voices of the professionals here on YouTube? It's great that we have the voices from the researchers, and I think it's great that we have the voices of the hobbyists and enthusiasts, but that's 80% or more, maybe 90% of the tech voices here on YouTube. The little tiny squeaky 10% of the professionals like me that make videos, none of us that are professionals have channels anywhere near the size of the hobbyists. And that frightens me. It makes me scared for the human race. People don't know. They don't know they're watching a hobbyist or that there's any difference. So again, consider where the source of the information is coming from that you're getting online. When a researcher tells me something, for the most part, I don't care. I don't care what a researcher finds, right? If a researcher is able to actually show that this is an ongoing issue and this is how you fix it, I'm interested. But if they want to show what's possible, I'd say button it up. Don't tell other people, because all you're going to do is teach them and encourage them, some of them, to take advantage of the exploit. So keep that to yourself. If you're a hobbyist or an enthusiast, I think you should stipulate that in your videos. Hey, what you're about to see has no liability, accountability, or any personal responsibility from the creator. You watch this for entertainment purposes only, and any information you get is not guaranteed to be accurate or true. Some of it could be wives' tales. Oh, we don't say wives' tales anymore? The world is changing, man. It's getting weird. Anyway, it drives me a little crazy because I have to keep correcting the misinformation people are fed. So what do you do if you've been fed misinformation and somebody's telling you you have wrong information? Who do you believe? So at the end of the day, it's really up to you to do your own research if it matters that much to you. If you can't be bothered to do your own research, please don't propagate the misinformation unless you have verified it. And by verifying it, I mean you went to a reputable website. So it would be Microsoft, it could be one of the professional publishers like PC Magazine, PC World, although I've seen them hire some tech journalists that didn't know what they were talking about, but that's usually short-lived before they're corrected or move on to another field that might be better to their expertise. Very few people that are professionals in this industry are good writers, I can tell you that. I've done that. So I've done teaching, I've written for Tom's Hardware, I've written for Smart Computing Magazine, I've written for a couple of trade magazines, and I can tell you, a professional technician writing articles, as far as I know, I was the only one. I know there was at least one other one because I met him during the PC building contest. But prior to that, oh, and he beat me, by the way. He beat me by 1.8 seconds. This close. He was good. I said, I'm in a room full of journalists. There's no real competition here. And the guy next to me just beat me. Paul Carroll joins us as a member. Hey, thank you, Paul. Michael says he prefers the old mechanical drives. He's seen too many failed solid states. See, that's funny to me. What do you do for a living, Michael? I have been doing this for over 30 years. I started installing solid state drives in 2013. I think it was 2013 when I first started using them. And they were pretty small in capacity. In every one of those drives I installed in 2013, they all still work today. The OCZ drives that had a bad reputation, I got several of them at my house. So these people that talk about reliability, I wonder what their point of, what their experience is that would lead them to that conclusion. Because I used to replace, on average, every year, somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 3 dozen mechanical drives that had failed. That was normal. That was done usually at least twice a month. A customer would call and they'd have a failed mechanical drive. I have never, ever had a customer with a solid state drive have a failure. So we're on, what, almost 10 years. Never happened. And I install a lot of them. I'm not some hobbyist. I'm not some guy putting 1 or 2 in, right? And I don't have an investment in solid state drives. I don't have any motive to pick one side or the other. But I can tell you, when you work at the large scale I work on, I'm going to see a different perspective than your average hobbyist or enthusiast. And I'm just sharing it with you. If you want to disagree with the guy that's got all the experience because you know better, hey, you're probably not going to get much benefit from watching me if that's your attitude. But, you know, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, I get paid the same. Cerise says, why is it bad to fill an SSD or get it more than half full? That's not bad. Why do you think that's bad? Why did you just assume that that was bad? I've never said that. So here we go with false information again. Chris's channel of technology contributes $1.99. Said, I have installed many SSDs and none have failed. That's what I'm saying. Like, why would I make that up? There's nothing in it for me. If the SSDs failed more than hard drives, don't you think I'd say it and I'd be all pissed off about people loving solid state drives? It's the opposite. I'm like, why would you still want that old, clunky, slow, mechanical, failure-ridden, short lifespan hard drive? There's just nothing good about hard drives. You'll not see a hard drive in any of my builds in the last, 4 or 5 years? And if I did put one in, I did it reluctantly because that's what the customer wanted, despite my attempts to talk the customer out of it. Cerise said, a couple of people just said that SSDs shouldn't be filled up. Well, who were they? What was the source of that information? Did those people say I was 12 feet tall? And would you believe them if they did? Don't fill up your SSD and it will work forever. Again, I don't know what you guys are talking about. You can fill up an SSD just fine. No differently than a mechanical hard drive. The problem is whether it's a mechanical drive or a solid state drive. If Windows doesn't have enough elbow room, to write its swap file and in temp files and such, then Windows is going to crash. But it has nothing to do with the type of drive. It's just Windows needs room to work. So I recommend you have at least 10% of your drive space free at all times. Preferably 20%. When you get down to 10%, you'll usually start getting warnings because Windows is like, hey, I need some space and I'm getting closed in. The walls are closing in and I can't move. And I'm going to blue screen on you if you don't do something about it. It has nothing to do with solid state drives. How many of you in the chat room have experienced personally a solid state drive failure? If you're in the chat room, you can write down, I experienced an SSD failure. And how many of you have experienced a hard disk drive failure? If you have, write down, I have experienced a hard disk drive failure. And let's see which one we see more of in a chat room full of a bunch of people all over the world that I don't know. What do you think the results are going to be? Fubar Mike says, if an SSD is close to full, the trim won't work properly since there's not enough room to do wear leveling, but it doesn't necessarily mean the drive will fail. So again, I'm asking you guys where you're getting your information from. None of this makes any sense. I don't think you guys understand how solid state drives work. Yes, to some extent, the wear leveling may be limited, but that just results in performance degradation. It has nothing to do with reliability whatsoever. But again, if you want to stick to a hard disk drive or something, it doesn't make any difference to me. I don't care. Cerise says there's no time limit per day with a hard disk drive. Yes, there is. It's called, and if you want to Google this, I'd like you to look up mean time before failure, MTBF. All hard drives are rated for MTBF. Solid state drives are essentially the exact same thing, but it's recorded data. But if you figure out how many days it would take to record that much data, like an average user, it's around 70 years, right? So a mechanical hard drive, on the other hand, it has a mean time before failure, which is based on hours. But it's a theoretical, again, theoretical estimation. So if you looked up what is the average lifespan of an American male, and it said 72 years, does that mean you're going to live to be 72? Of course not. It's an average. It's a theoretical average based on the information they have. But each individual is likely not going to die at 72. They might die at 60. Some might die at 95 or 102. And when we average it all up, it's not that more people died at 72. It's that when we take all the numbers and we average them, we get to 72. That's the fun thing about statistics, is you can tweak them to put any agenda out there you want if you just state it the right way. And it gets people to take sides who just simply aren't educated on the topic, which is why I encourage you to ask these questions, so I can educate you and you can verify what I'm telling you now that you have the information you did not have before. Now your Google search will be more accurate, so you can find the actual technical articles that explain this, assuming you can understand the technical articles that will explain mean time before failure and how that is estimated, along with write cycles on solid states, depending on if it's SLC, TLC, MLC, or QLC, NAND, RAM. They all have different write estimates. But even when a solid state drive is written to its life, which again, never seen it in my entire career, but it's theoretically possible, so let's all be afraid of it as though it's a real thing. Even if it were to happen, the drive doesn't fail. The drive becomes read-only. It becomes like a CD. So all the data's there, but when you go to write anything to the drive, the write says, I can't write to this device anymore. So what? And why are you guys not making any backups? You know, that's the thing that really, I'm scratching my head going, in the real world of business, nobody cares about this. Nobody cares. As long as you have backups, it's a minor inconvenience to swap out a drive. Who cares? It's not a big deal. It's not expensive. And if it's under warranty, it's free. You just have to swap the drive out. You restore from your backup and you're back up and running. Who cares? It's not a heart and lung machine. And how foolish are you to not make a backup? Because if you made your backup, you wouldn't care about the lifespan of a hard drive or the lifespan of a solid state, because you know there's a lot of reasons why people lose their data. It's not just losing data because your drive fails. My gosh, I used to get so many drive failures back in the day with hard drives. So you think people don't lose data anymore? Because SSDs are so reliable? We have Mike Embry, an American veteran, in our chat room who I just visited today. I just told you he lost everything in a fire. Don't you think there was some data that's gone too? What about ransomware and viruses and accidental deletions and file corruption? What about when somebody breaks in and steals your stuff? And by the way, Mike didn't do anything to cause a fire. An electrician did. And not even where he was living, to the house, the place next to where he was living. But he still suffered the consequences of it. But hey, if you got backups, and especially cloud backups, you wouldn't have lost anything. So there's this weird, fixated, myopic, and shallow view of a non-existent issue that people behave as though it's real. Show me a drive that has been written to so many times it won't write anymore. Show me a drive that has been sitting on a shelf so long the data on it has just vanished. You cannot show me that because it's never existed in reality. Yes, You can force a solid state drive into read-only mode if you write data to it endlessly, non-stop, with the intent to crash it. And you can cause a hard drive to crash if you do the exact same thing over a long enough period of time. You will break that drive. You could do it to your car, you could do it to your dishwasher. You can run things into the ground and force them to fail and say, see, I told you. That's not normal. So if we're talking about just a natural failure that occurs, you could have a power outage or a lightning strike. You know, it has nothing to do with the device itself, but ends up with the same result. But as long as you have your backup, again, who cares? Who cares? It's a non-issue. So I don't understand why people have so much fear and anxiety over something they've never experienced and no one's been able to prove, when all the reasons you are likely to lose your data, nobody in this chat room has mentioned fires, thefts, floods, ransomware and viruses, accidental deletions and file corruptions, lightning strikes and acts of nature, tornadoes and hurricanes. That is way more likely going to affect you. Way more likely. You want to talk statistics? You are far more likely to have your data lost because of all of those things I just said. I'd say 90% or greater. That's the reason if you have data loss. It's going to be a fire, a theft, a flood. It's going to be a power strike. It's going to be a virus. It's going to be ransomware. It's going to be a natural disaster. It's going to be something unexpected. Today in the news, a car, somebody bought a new Tesla. They put it in reverse and went right into their neighbor's house, right into the bedroom, and the car was on the bed next to the guy. They have to go live in a hotel now. If there was a computer there, crushed. So where does the data go? Is that the hard drive or solid state drive's fault? So you guys are fixated over here when the thing you need to be looking at is over here. Why do you guys do that? Can you guys tell me why you do that? I don't get it. Why are we fixated on something that's got maybe a less than 10% likelihood of ever happening to you, and the thing that's got a 90% likelihood of that, you just ignore that like it doesn't exist? You've got that backwards. You're twisted. How do you think I earn a living? If everything was the way you think it is, I wouldn't be in business. So imagine in my head, I'm like, what's going on? Where are people getting this misinformation? It's so wrong. It's so wrong. But again, it doesn't make any difference in my life. I still have a career. I still have a job. I still have a ton of work waiting to do. And none of it is any of this stuff you guys are talking about. It never has been. Never. What have I seen? 2 bad SSDs, and I think I saw them both 2 years ago. I think I saw them a few months apart. I haven't seen one before then, and I hadn't seen one since. It was weird. It's like when it rains, it pours. You know, I actually kept it. I'm like, there's my very first failed SSD. I've heard about people having failed SSDs. I've just never met one in real life. I'm going to keep this. I'm probably going to have it framed. That's how rare it is. And I have kept it. I just haven't gotten around to having it framed yet. Zen Carter says, I feel sorry for the techs who have to recover hard drives only to find out the customer spilled a ton of coffee and left it soaking. Yeah, well, then that's another reason people lose, right? Laptops are easily stolen, they're easily dropped, and they get things spilled on them. But if you had a backup, you'd never, look, data recovery is just an expensive way of backing up your data. All the data recovery person's going to do is make a backup. You're basically saying, my hard drive failed and I need the data off of it. And I'm going to translate this for you. I don't have a backup because I live in denial that it would never happen to me, and it happened to me. What do I do now? And then the person you call data recovery is actually just a backup specialist. And the backup specialist says, well, I can try and back up your data for you. Would you like me to do that? And you say, yes. And they say, okay, well, that's going to be about $1,000. It should take about 2 weeks. And I can't guarantee I can get anything back or everything back. It is what it is. Okay. And, you know, if you're lucky, you get all your stuff back. And then the data backup person, who you're calling data recovery, by the way, which I think is hilarious. The data recovery, the backup guy or gal calls you and says, hey, great news. I've got 100% of your data back. You go, oh, that's wonderful. They go, okay, now where do you want me to put the data? What do you mean? Well, I can't put the data on the bad drive. So you need to buy a drive for me to put your data on. Oh, you mean like a backup drive? Yes, I am a data backup specialist. Now that we have the backup of your data, we need to put it somewhere. So you need to give me some more money. Okay, so you give them money for a backup drive, and they make the backup that you couldn't be bothered to make yourself at about 10 times or more the cost of doing it yourself, and about, you know, something you could have done in 10 minutes, taking an average of about 2 weeks at best. Why would you do that? It's weird, man. Don't you think that's weird? Or am I the weird one? Am I the one that's just, am I missing something? Like, are you all just smarter than me? And you're like, I don't need to waste time with backups. What do you know that I don't know? Release me from the dark. Share with me your enlightenment that makes you exempt from requiring backups. Why in the world would you have any excuse to not do it? And yet, still send your drive to data recovery. That's all I want to know. I'm just trying to add this up, but it ain't adding up. Time for more Gatorade. Hey, this install's almost done too, so we're getting through it. Getting through it. I'm missing something. All you all know something I don't know. And it's freaking me out. Because it looks really obvious and inarguable. So let me have it. Wayne Was says, hey, Carey, nice to see you doing a live stream at this time, and I have all my backups. Hey, Wayne, I don't care. That's your stuff, man. If you lose it, it has no impact on me at all. I just feel really bad for people that can't be bothered and then cry that they're a victim when something happens. Or they make up stuff about drive reliability, which, as if that mattered. If you had a backup, you wouldn't care. It's weird. It's really weird. I wonder how many people eat things they know are bad for them and eat them anyway. I know I should do a backup, but I'm not going to do it. I know I shouldn't be eating this terrible food that's probably going to kill me, but I'm going to keep eating it. It's almost as though you care for the computer more than you care for yourself. It's almost as though you'll find all of these excuses to do all kinds of preventive measures on your computer regarding mythical and misinformation. And yet, you will do that because you think it's what's best for the computer. But when it comes for what's best for you, this is too delicious. I should lose some weight, but I'm going to eat this pint of ice cream anyway. You know, if there was thing more important than the computer, it's you. And there's a focus on what you should be doing preventive maintenance on. The priority should be on you. But it's very hypocritical for you to be in bad shape and doing something you know you shouldn't be doing or eating, and then turn around and lecture me about the safety of a computer and reliability of solid state versus hard disk drives. I find that to be, I'm trying to find a word for it, almost clownish. It's like, you can't expect me to take you seriously. But again, hobbyists and enthusiasts versus professionals. And I challenge any of you to present to me a solid state drive where the data has just faded over time. You'll never be able to provide that to me in my lifetime. Guarantee it. Prove me wrong. Show me a solid state drive that fails because it's more than half full. That wouldn't be the reason why it failed. Show me a solid state drive that if it's filled up doesn't work anymore. It won't behave any differently than a mechanical drive that's filled up. Prove me wrong. If you can't prove me wrong, I don't know why there's anything else to discuss. And what the hell have I been doing for 31, 32 years? What have I been doing wrong for 32 years and yet still in the industry, and I still get lots and lots more work than I can even dream about doing? I have a ton of work. How's that possible for somebody so stupid like me to just remain stupid and not learn anything for over 3 decades? How did I do it? It must be like David Copperfield or something. I don't know. I'm just very confused. I don't know why you think I'm here. But I said, you know, I've got over 30 years of experience, and I'd like to share that with individuals so they don't have to listen to the hobbyist enthusiasts with their misinformation. And then I get challenged. And people want to correct me, and I'm like, well, who are you? What evidence do you have? Well, I just read it on Reddit. Oh, well, in that case, I stand corrected. Clearly, you're out of my league. My apologies for making an attempt. Defend your ignorance to the death. That's the thing. And if I'd have known so many people would do that, by the way, I would have never ventured down this road. I'd have said, you know, I'm trying to feed people who don't want to eat. They don't think they need food. They've been told they can live without it. And I'm like, you really need to eat? No. I'm like, well, show me evidence of somebody who's been alive for a few years who hasn't eaten. You can't. Okay, well, why am I putting up this fight? This is not a hill I want to die on. I'm giving you the information. You can take it, you can leave it. I'm paid nothing either way. So it's just weird. It's just weird if you put yourself in my shoes and make the attempt to do what I'm trying to do, and the resistance I get is, it should be a comic. It should be a cartoon. It's so silly. It should be like a Warner Brothers cartoon. I might as well paint a hole on the side of this wall and tell you guys you can go in there. Because there's a certain amount of you that apparently will believe that. I saw it on TV. That's not to say I'm always right. I'm not always right. But there's certain things I know for a fact. After 30 plus years of doing this as a professional, there are certain things I know are a fact. And I always invite all of you, if you can prove what I'm saying wrong, show me the proof. And it doesn't mean some doctored article written by some enthusiast, but rather actual evidence that is sustained, you can recreate, that proves, right? And I'm not interested in some research facility. I want to see an actual customer who's had a drive sitting on a shelf for so long, the data just vanished. I want to see an actual customer bring a computer to me with a bad SSD. I want to see it. I don't want you to send me your bad SSDs. I don't know what SSD you bought. You bought some crap, or you installed it wrong, you put a cheap power supply on it. For all I know, you screwed it up. So yeah, I'm not saying there's no bad SSDs, but when I install them and I use quality name brand equipment, the reason I'm still in business, the reason I'm not in a different career, is because what I do works and is sustainable, and I'm not, losing a ton of money in warranty work and pissed off customers taking their business somewhere else, So, it's really weird. It's really weird. Cerise says, I work with someone that gets her news from the front page of Reddit and only there. I have never seen anything on Reddit that was actual news that wasn't, published by the New York Times or the Washington Post or, CNN or Fox or some news organization. Usually they're the ones who post the information first. With one exception, if it's celebrity stuff, TMZ, they're usually the first to report stuff because they don't do any due diligence. They have trusted sources, and their sources are usually right. But if you're a professional journalist, you got to, really be responsible and double check all the information and make sure it's factual. So when a celebrity dies, usually TMZ is the first that'll hit with that news. And then it might be an hour or two before the major news organizations pick it up, but you're unlikely going to see it on Reddit first. That's what's weird to me. Who goes to an online website, like Reddit or a forum or even YouTube, unless it's a professional news organization? Why would you get your news anywhere else? It's just weird. And I understand news can be biased politically, but regardless, if there's a fire, if there's a shooter in your neighborhood, you likely want to watch your local news to find out that stuff, regardless of their political leanings, and not rely on Reddit for that. But that's just me. I'm just weird that way. Brady says, do I recommend over-provisioning with Samsung Magician? I think if you watch my channel long enough, this wants to restart. One of the things you're going to learn from a service technician, myself, been in the industry, how long? How many times have I said it? Leave stuff alone. Unless you want a problem. If you are having a problem with your Samsung drive and you think over-provisioning it will solve your problem, then let's have that discussion. But do you think Samsung sends all these solid-state drives out to people with default over-provisioning set inadequately to cause a lot of drive failures? This is what I call technochondria. It is technology hypochondria. It's like you're diagnosing yourself on WebMD, and you've got everything. So leave it alone. These are very, very smart engineers. 4-year, 6-year Ivory College graduates in engineering from MIT, for example, that are designing these things for consumer use. This is not an MIT research lab facility that we're experimenting with. This is consumer-grade electronics. It can take a huge beating because it's getting released to the public. Leave the over-provisioning alone. If you're trying to fix something that isn't broken, you're just trying to break something. That's the best thing I can conclude. It's weird. It's like people get this information. It's like a poison pill. It poisons your brain and you think you've got a problem. And your problem is you think you have a problem. So if you stop thinking you have a problem, you don't have a problem anymore. It's all about attitude and perspective. But hey, I'm a computer tech, and you should totally do that so that you can call me and I can make money from the repair. I mean, that's what some capitalist people in my position would say. They may not say it that full disclosure, but they might encourage behavior that would likely need a service call. Because, hey, that's what I do for a living. I'm trying to be the good guy. I'm trying to tell you, man, you don't need to be doing all this stuff. The average consumer buys a computer. They don't do nothing to it. The Windows updates come in automatically, whether they like it or not. And the computers just run for years and years and years and years and years. How's that possible? How's it possible Grandma can have a computer that runs longer than yours? Well, that's because she leaves hers alone. You could learn from Grandma. But it's your drive. If you want to over-provision it, have at it. If you think you can outsmart the MIT engineers, hey, why aren't you working for Samsung? Doesn't make any sense to me. Got a genius person over here that knows better than the engineers, and they don't even work at the company when clearly the company needs this genius because clearly their engineers are all morons. I mean, that's kind of like what you're saying. I don't know if you realize it or not. And I'm just kind of blown away by it. Wow. You think Samsung sells a product to consumers where the consumers have to go through some dance or routine of customization in order to get that product to work optimally. That's not how Samsung got to be as big as Samsung is. I can assure you, Samsung would never have achieved the levels of success they have if you had to do that weird, you know, become an engineer. You ask most end users what over provisioning is, they'll look at you like, what language are you speaking? I don't know. Over provisioning, what is that? Customers don't need to know that. That's technical stuff. It's all set by the factory, man. So I wouldn't question the engineers of a very large company like Intel, AMD, Logitech. I think you should see if you can get a factory tour, particularly in the engineering section, and maybe a tour guide that can explain to you what the engineers are doing, so you can have a better appreciation of the depth of details that go into these products. It is insane. If you see how Intel tests their CPUs, they do tests you wouldn't even dream of doing. And they've got tools and equipment that's the coolest stuff you'll ever see. And it's likely the only place you'll ever see that. And you will have no idea how it works. But those engineers, it's nothing. They go, here, let me show you. And we got to test this and we got to look for that. And you're like, I had no idea you guys don't. Oh yeah, and we have to do this. You could probably find some videos on YouTube about it. You're oversimplifying so much. I have a great respect for those people. It'd be like going to a doctor that's, you know, been a doctor for 20 years, 30 years, and then questioning your doctor's advice. Hey, I'm all good for getting a second opinion. Just make sure you get it from another doctor, not from a website. That's all I'm saying. Consider the source. Nothing wrong with verifying anything that you're told, but yeah. Yeah. Harley Dad wants to know if backups degrade, like if you make a copy of a copy of a copy from a copy. No, backups are digital. So back in the day when we were using analog, like if you're old enough to remember like VHS tapes or cassette tapes, it was magnetic tape. And every time you made a copy from one magnetic tape to another magnetic tape, it degraded. But digital is a 1 or a 0, that's all it is. And if I take a 1 and a 0 from here and I move the 1 and 0 over here, what does it degrade to? Half of a 1? There's no such thing. So it's 1 to 1, 0 to 0, and you can copy it again and copy it again and copy it again and copy it again, and you can do this to the day you die, and every 1 will still be a 1 and every 0 will still be a 0 in the exact same integrity that is imperceptibly, what's the word I want? You will not be able to tell the original from the copy. There'd be no way for you to know that, apart from maybe looking at file creation dates, but just comparing the data. If you took a file from, you know, let's say we have a drive over here and then we've got 175,000 drives over here and we've copied to 175,000 drives. We copy the drive 2, then from drive 2 to drive 3, and drive 3 to drive 4, and drive 4 to drive 5. And we just copied the same backup 175,000 times onto 175,000 drives. And I randomly picked one of those 175,000 drives and did a data comparison to the original. It would be hard for me to be able to know which one was the original, apart from looking at the drive itself, if there's some label that identifies it as such. Or again, maybe a file creation date, and the older date, I suppose, would be the original. So to answer your question, to summarize, no. The answer to your question is no. Couldn't you have started with that? Lead with that next time. Digital versus analog. Digital does not degrade. Analog degrades. Remember analog smartphones? Cell phones. They weren't smartphones. Smartphones would be digital. And you'd be on the phone and you'd hear, shh, hey, can you hear me now? Shh. That's static, that's analog. You don't get static well, you get some noise sometimes, but you don't really get static in the same way. Digital, generally, you're on the call or you're not. You don't kind of have half of a call. They can hear you, you can't hear them. There's a lot of static or noise. That's the old analog cell phone technology. The new digital cell phone technology, well, it isn't perfect. For the most part, you very rarely have that problem. And if the signal's not good, the call just ends. It just hangs up. It's there or it's not there in the case of digital. And again, there's always a few exceptions. But again, if you were around during the analog cell phone days, that was pretty normal during pretty much every call. Now it's pretty rare. So analog versus digital. You should watch Security Now. Oh, well, here we go, talking about more researchers and theorists. I have nothing but great respect for Steve Gibson, but he's a researcher. So as a researcher, he can sort of involve his time in all kinds of possible theory, but he's not paid by a corporation, let's say, to implement security for them. To the best of my knowledge, all Steve Gibson does is talk about what's possible. And I'm not exactly sure how he makes money, but he's a researcher. And I would caution you against these researchers because many of them aren't much better than hobbyists or enthusiasts. They're very good at fear-mongering and at creating highly improbable situations to create anxiety. He might have things he's trying to sell. That might be why he does it. But I would be curious, how does Steve Gibson make a living? Do you know? Because he's a researcher. Who's paying him to do the research? And what actual problems that people are actually having does Security Now fix? As far as I know, it's all theoretical. It's all what's possible. And again, in the real world, in corporate America, we don't normally engage with employment of people like that because they can cost the company a lot of money. If, on the other hand, we're researching and we're discovering a security exploit, you need to pass that information on to the manufacturer of the software of the device. And that should all be done without the public's knowledge until after it's already been done, because it invites hackers. It educates the hackers to what the exploit is. So what a lot of the researchers do is quite harmful to regular folks, because those researchers are inadvertently educating hackers to exploits and how they can be used. It'd be like if I showed you how to make drugs. I'd be teaching you how to make drugs. So I think these researchers, again, having something that's full disclosure, that explains how they make their money, would be very useful to understanding whether or not you should believe what they're telling you as being something you should genuinely be concerned about. I find a lot of things they talk about on Security Now are extremely far-fetched. But I don't listen to it all the time. But when I have listened to it, I've generally turned it off because it's like, I'm like, really? In all my years, I've never had a customer have this particular issue. What's the likelihood? And a lot of it's just like, well, it's possible. Okay, well, you could probably listen to a podcast about all the diseases and ways you could die too. It doesn't mean that any of it's going to affect you personally. I'd rather worry about any signs of diseases I've got now so I can attack them early, rather than walk around in fear and paranoia and anxiety wondering what's around the next corner. So again, I have a great respect. It doesn't sound like I do, but I do have a great respect for Steve Gibson's knowledge. I just wish he worked in a security field as a professional, doing where the research he was doing was being funded by, let's say, MIT or some nationally recognized organization. As far as I know, the question is, how does Steve Gibson make his money? So I hear Steve Gibson, I roll my eyes. I'm like, not out of everything he says, but I'd say a good 75% of the things he's talking about are like, yeah, it ain't gonna happen. He was right about the Windows firewall situation on Windows XP. And he warned Microsoft, he's like, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And Microsoft's like, whatever. And it happened, exactly what he said. And then Microsoft then came up with their own idea to fix the problem that Steve Gibson told them about a year earlier. So I'm not saying that the information that he gives is all wrong, but it's also not justifiably all worth your consideration or concern, because some of it is extremely specific. You know, if this thing happens and the stars are aligned and the weather's below 90 degrees and the day is a weekday in May and your last name begins with the letter H, this might happen. That's the extent that researchers may go to. And that's an exaggeration, obviously. But in the real world, in professional PC repair, nobody knows who Steve Gibson is. I've never run into anybody in my career who's like, hey, did you hear Steve Gibson yesterday? They don't look up to him for information. We get information directly from the manufacturers, and we get information from generally trade magazines or trade websites, if you will. You know, you've got sites like TechCrunch, and you've got sites like Bleeping Computer, where you can get a ton more information. So even if Steve Gibson is alerting you to something, if it's worthy, Bleeping Computer will have it along with a ton of other information that day, not just that one thing. So hanging on one person for information, especially regarding security, seems unwise. So much is happening with security now. It's happening so rapidly. The research of one person is nothing. You know, you look at Bleeping Computers, go to the news, there's probably 10 or 12 articles every day regarding security. All unrelated, but all security. And I don't recall the last time Steve Gibson was mentioned, but again, I just wonder how he makes a living. Researchers, hobbyists, and enthusiasts are the bane of my existence. I'm out here in the real world. I'm fixing people's real problems, people whose businesses are down, people whose data is at stake, people whose customers' data is at stake, customers who are trying to get help from these companies, and these companies can't help their customers because their systems are not theoretically down. Their systems are down. And I'm the one who is called to fix real problems for real people. I'm not paid to just fart around. So, you know, and part of this may be ignorance on my part, and I'll openly admit it. I have no idea how Steve Gibson makes a living. No idea. I'm sure he's a great guy, and I'm sure he's way smarter than me. But why isn't he working for one of these, you know, nationally recognized security research think tanks? Why is he not a part of that? Or is he, and I just don't know? Kelly wants me to check my email. Okay, Kelly. Well, you know what? Let me just, I think we got all the Windows updates now. Let's go check one more time, and then I can run that Crystal Disk Mark test, and we can see what our performance numbers look like on the drive. I'm hoping John Yasuda, who reached out to me, the system I built for him like 3 years ago, he put a new 3070 graphics card in it, and about a month later, it won't turn on anymore. Like, it turns on, and it just like goes into a boot cycle. And so he sent it to me yesterday, and I'm supposed to get it tomorrow. And I'm hoping I get it while I'm doing a live show. So I think tomorrow, when I do the live show at 1 o'clock, I'm going to find something to stall, essentially, hoping that FedEx will show up at my door, because I really want that to be tomorrow's content, because I'd like to get it unboxed, to put it up here on the counter and show you a real-world diagnostic of a real-world problem that somebody actually has. Won't that be unique for the internet? All right, so, oh, I got some emails. Barry Klein sent an Amazon gift card for $25. Don Dry sent an Amazon gift card for $10. And Kelly Stewart sent an Amazon gift card again for $50. Right on. Thank you guys so much. And Mike Embry, so he's the vet that I dropped the computer parts off to. I asked him to send me pictures, and I'm going to show you the pictures. He's just sent me a bunch of pictures. So let me just step over to the camera. Let me finish. I have to download each one of them here. Oh, this is cool. So the case that he's using here was brand new in a box. Let's say the motherboard was used. It looks like we got the pictures in reverse order. So let's do this. Since we don't really have much to see on this screen, let's take this screen down. And then let me walk over to the camera. And I'll share these pictures with you. So there's the case. Can I go one way or the other? Yeah, there's the motherboard I gave him. I've already got the CPU in it and the RAM. That's the way I gave it to him. And then he's got the power supply there out of the box. That's that Silverstone 750 watt. Yeah. Why did he put the fan in upside down? Usually the fan faces down, Mike. Why is the fan facing up? And here he's got everything installed, it looks like. There he is. There he is. And then I guess that was the case before he put the board in there. He just literally sent these to me. This is the first time I'm seeing them myself. And that's it. Right on. And that's from Mike. I am so glad that, first of all, that Mike enjoyed building it, because I've built enough. Somebody says, I'll build it for you. I'm like, yeah, please do. And also, you know, that we're able to help him out and get him a really decent computer and the TP-Link router. And I gave him a keyboard and a mouse, a good Logitech Marathon mouse and one of those Corsair K55 keyboards. And he's very deserving of it. And I'm so grateful, you know, not only for his service, but even just to have been able to, you know, lend him a hand, you know. It's not a lot. It wasn't a big sacrifice on my part. Much of you here in the community have even made these giveaways possible. Without you, I wouldn't have been in the position to even have it to give away. But in just finding people that are deserving, you know, worthy, people have earned it, people who'll appreciate it. That's really my goal at the end of the day. Okay, well, this computer, if we go back over to this computer screen, let's take a look at the ASUS updates now. So that's this icon down here. And I'm going to recheck for updates because it might have changed. It may have gotten some of these updates that it was recommending. They may have come in through Windows Update now. So if we go to this little box, click on it, updates. Let's see, it says there's a new Intel chipset driver. We'll hit download all. There we go. And this is so weird that I have to tell it where to download. In fact, I want to delete everything in the downloads folder because I don't know if these items I've already downloaded were already installed, like the BIOS update. So I'm going to delete all of that because that's just going to be confusing. Now, these are the updates that it actually needs. It got everything else from Windows Update. Boy, some of these are really small files. Yeah, I'm not seeing the BIOS anymore. So if I click on the yellow folder, that should take me, all right, so you can see these are all the files it's downloaded. They've all been pretty small. And I'll just start at the top and work my way down. It's probably going to want to restart the computer after every install. So I have to double click on each one of these and manually install it. Now again, if you had a Dell or an HP computer, you would just use the Dell Update or HP Update tool and it would automatically do all of this for you. Yeah, it wants to restart. So we'll go ahead and restart it. I may not have, I probably should have waited for the rest of those downloads to finish, but I'm going to just start working my way down that list because this is going to be a few minutes. And then the idea is when I go back to the ASUS update, I want to get to where it says no updates are available. That's my goal. Now, because I've already downloaded all those files, I do not have to bring up the ASUS update tool until I have installed, basically finished what I put on my plate, right? So if I go back into my downloads folder, these three, so I started at camera. Normally I wait for all the downloads to finish. So this is the fingerprint sensor. I'll double click, click yes, next, 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 install. Then it's probably going to want to reboot. Now you don't necessarily have to reboot every time, but there's no harm in it. So if it's suggesting a reboot, I'm going to follow the suggestion, because if you don't reboot when a reboot is actually sincere, that means things go a little sideways and you might have to do like a restore to put it back. So I'm just going to play it safe and just do one at a time and restart between them for that reason. You see, the restart only takes a few seconds. It's a fast laptop, and you know, we're already back at the desktop. So we'll go back up, back over to downloads, and now there's a graphics driver that's 336 megs. So that might take a minute to decompact. Richard says, what a pain. Well, this is what I do for a living, right? You'd be surprised how many customers never do this. And if it's not going to happen automatically, it ain't happening. And then when you're done, they go, wow, my computer runs like new again. You're so smart. Okay. But once you do this, as long as you keep it updated, it won't take this long. Just this computer's been sitting on a shelf for a while. It's missing a lot. But these video drivers, they always take a little bit. NVIDIA's are the big pigs. Those are, you know, 900 meg downloads, almost a terabyte download. I'm sure it's just a couple of months away. Probably by the end of this year, an NVIDIA driver is going to be a terabyte download. So the screen blanking out, that's the new video driver going in. And then you hear the tones of the device manager saying, oh, I just loaded a new driver. That's the video driver. Much like changing the tire on a car, the car has to pull over and stop to get the flat tire off of it. It would be very difficult, if not impossible, to try and change a flat tire on a moving car unless you were a professional stuntman with a professional designed car that was designed for that. So when you see the screen blank out, it's disengaging the current driver for the video card, and then it's re-engaging with the new driver installed. So when it's disengaged, there's no video, and then when the new driver is then engaged, then the video happens again, and then we restart to flush out all the pre-existing driver related files that are in memory, so that we restart the computer. That clears out the RAM every time we restart, and it starts it fresh again. And this time it'll load the updated drivers, and that's why those restarts are necessary. So if we go back now and we'll keep working down that line of downloads. Next is a touchpad driver. We'll click yes on that. Next, and install. Those are pretty quick, and we'll reboot, and we keep going through the cycle. We're going to reboot again. And once again, on the yellow folder, downloads. Now we already did the camera one because that's the one I started with, so we'll move down. And that's our rapid storage technology driver, and we'll just go through that one and install it. And reboot again. Wayne Lawrence says, you'd think a big company like ASUS would automate this process like other companies. I'm agreeing with you. It's very disappointing that they don't have a process like Dell and HP, which is, you know, nowhere near this technical. Okay, we're getting there. Now we're at the UART. We'll install that and reboot. David Martinez says, Carey, I had a motherboard that had a power surge on the Ethernet port. Did not work. The SSD, nothing happened to it. It still works. Josh says, what do you think about the ZenBook Pro Duo? Didn't want that extra screen. You know, the Zen Pro Duo is really for content creators. And if you're not a content creator, it's just a waste of money. It's like buying a school bus and you live alone and you don't drive anybody anywhere. It's just not for you, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have any value. If you are a content creator, to be able to have your content creation tools on that smaller screen at the bottom and then your preview screen at the top, so much easier. And it's designed with the NVIDIA technology for enhancing the entire, or optimizing the entire process to make it all happen smoothly and quickly. You know, if you build your own system, you may not build it for content creation as optimally as ASUS did on that ZenBook Pro Duo. But it also depends on the kind of content you create and your skill as a system builder. So, to each his own. Personally, I love the ZenBook Pro Duo. There's a couple of things I don't like about it, but there's a couple of things I don't like about pretty much everything. I kind of feel like if I don't find something to improve, I'm not looking hard enough. I'm being lazy. Everything can always be improved. Let's see, where was I? I think I did the card reader. So now we can do the Intel Dynamic Tuning, install that. Again, these are quick. And again, for most of these, I'm sure I don't have to reboot. I'm sure of it. But I don't see any harm in, why not? And again, it's a great way to test a new machine. If this was a machine I've had for a while, I might be more inclined to, you know, things like the video driver or hard disk drivers, we definitely want to reboot on. But these other things like touchpad and stuff like that, we probably don't need to. But I'm still burning this machine, and this is part of my test. Before I would deliver this to a customer, I want to make sure it can go through these routine updates without any failures. And that's probably more work I'm doing to it than the customer will, generally speaking. Richard Cullen joins us, says hello. There's Carl Taylor just saying hello. Welcome in, guys. All right, where was I? I always got to remember where I left off when I do it this way. Did I do the 12CH? Yeah, so I got to do Nvme. Not like I need it, but in fact, I'm not going to reboot this one. That's not important to me. SPI driver setup, that yeah, we'll reboot it there. And then we'll do the Thunderbolt one. That one we should probably reboot afterwards. Richard says that sounds like a good price for $599. Yeah, well, that's, you know, we were looking for a laptop we could send to John Wilson, and we did the search live, and I showed you what I was looking for, and I showed you how I made my decision. And we wanted a keyboard that lit up, and we wanted a non-touch screen, and we wanted it to be 15 inches, or, you know, not 17, but 15 and a half. We wanted a Nvme drive, and we wanted at least 8 gigs of RAM. And preferably as cheaply as we can get it. Now, I've shown you in other videos, if you're getting these little icons down here on your system tray, I don't know if you can see where I'm at here. Maybe I can make this a little bigger for you guys to see. No, you can see it. It's fine. Yeah, we go down here, we can turn that off. If you right click, use the right mouse button on the system tray, and under, whoops, I don't know what I just did. No, close that. So we do it again. Right click, and we'll go to search, and then show search highlights. That's what those little icons are. They're search highlights. Tap on that to turn it off, and those go bye-bye forever, unless you turn it back on again. Okay, this is riveting, isn't it? This is the routine excitement of what it is to be a real professional computer tech. I know it's not as exciting as what the hobbyists and enthusiasts do, but it's real, and it matters to people in the sense that it creates a revenue stream for them. It gives them a job, or it gives them a customer, or it's helping a customer. You know, imagine you went to a grocery store and they couldn't take your money because the registers are down. An enthusiast isn't really going to help you with that. You need a professional to come in there. Also, for liability reasons, the store shouldn't allow anybody but a professional to work on it. And even that, not any professional, but an authorized professional. You could say, hey, I do this stuff as a hobby. I can see if I can get your server back up. Doesn't work like that. Not in the real world. All right, let's do downloads again. What did I just do? Thunderbolt, didn't I? So now we'll take a look at this. Get that one installed. And then just the INF update after that. Then we'll go back to the ASUS and we'll look for any updates. And hopefully it'll say we have none, and we're going to delete all those files out of the downloaded folder so that the end user doesn't click on them out of curiosity, because that's not going to lead anywhere good, especially if it's 6 months from now when those drivers have already been replaced with newer ones and they click on it and then reinstall old drivers on top of new ones. If there's going to be a problem, installing old drivers on top of new ones is more likely to create a problem than installing new drivers on top of old ones. So this is purely a technical exercise from a technician's perspective. I would not expect a customer to do this. It's way too complicated for most end users, and they probably wouldn't do it right. And they really probably wouldn't understand the severity of importance these updates have until there's a problem that results where they have to call somebody that's, now they're in a situation. Somebody like me comes out and says, oh, well, I see the problem. You haven't installed any of these updates. They fixed this. Well, how would I have known that? With this ASUS update, I don't know how you would have known it. But with a Dell or HP, you just go to Dell Update or HP Update. It all just happens for you. Again, patience. The system is working, and we need to allow it to decompress the file. And then once those files are extracted, it then executes the main setup file, which will take us to the next screen. And no pushing of buttons will make it happen any faster. I know some of you, you hit the elevator button and you keep pressing it like that's going to make the elevator. How many of you do that? Just up or down, and you're like up. Up, 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 up. And then the elevator behind you goes bing, and you're like, oh, it's over there. And then by the time you walk over there, the doors start to close because you were so fixated on repeating the button, you weren't paying attention. Happens to me all the time. Paul Carroll contributes $10. Thank you, Paul. Here we go. I think it's doing something now. All right, that one you definitely want to restart on because that's replacing the chipset drivers, and we want to clear all the old drivers out of the RAM, start the computer clean, load those new drivers in so we can take full advantage of the performance optimizations and security and perhaps even added features that the new drivers afford us. Okay, so we're going to go back into the My ASUS utility again, and once again we'll look for updates. In fact, before I confuse myself, I'm going to go ahead and hit Control-A and then delete, and we're going to get everything out of the downloads folder. Just in case it wants to download anything else, I won't be able to determine what it is with all those other files there, and we don't need them anymore. Once they're installed, we no longer need the installers. So we bring up the ASUS utility. It says your system is up to date. Click on it. Click latest. And that's finally what we've been wanting to see. It's telling us everything is up to date. And then there's like a download history here if we want to see what we've downloaded. Lots and lots of stuff. Okay, so with everything finally done, whenever I started this stream, when did I start it? 2.5 hours ago. I said it would probably take between 2 and 3 hours if you buy a computer or a laptop, a desktop or laptop from a retail store, or it's pre-built and you bought it online. You can expect about 2 to 3 hours of updates. That is normal, and I'm encouraging you to prepare for that and to make sure you do that first before you do anything else, like setting up your printer or your email. You need to make sure all of these updates go in properly and that there isn't any problem with the machine. Otherwise, you're putting the cart before the horse. You're just wasting your time and you're prolonging the inevitable. So what I'm going to do now is grab my utilities USB stick here, and let's run Crystal Disk Mark and see the performance. I'm not expecting rocket ship performance, but if we're going to get over 3,000 on the reads and writes, I'd call that a win. in other words, I'd be impressed if we're hitting a if we're hitting a budget-friendly laptop like this, if we see performance of 3,000 or higher on the reads or writes, that is going to be impressive at this price point. And maybe it will. What do you think? We'll grab Crystal Disk Mark Portable, and we'll just move that over. See how fast that was? I didn't even see the file transfer. We'll run Disk Mark 64. And let me close the window so it's less confusing. And let's, oh, no, stop. I didn't mean to do that. Let's run all the tests. We'll see what all the results are. Wow, color me impressed. We're at over 3,000 on the read speed on a budget laptop. Is this what the world's coming to? Because I like it. Now we're going to go through all the other read tests, moving down the left side. And once that last test at the bottom left is completed, we'll move over to the write tests. And I'm very interested on what that first write test number is going to be. If it's a really good Nvme drive, the write test will be very, very close to the read speeds. If it's an average Nvme drive, the write speeds will be around 2,000, or about 2/3. So I am expecting, if I had to guess, and you saw me unbox this, I've never seen this laptop before in my life in person, I'm going to guess write speeds of 2,700, and that's pretty good. That's pretty good. About the most you're ever going to get out of a Gen 3 Nvme drive is 3,600 tops. Typically about 3,550 out of the expensive Samsungs. So we're pretty darn close to that with this budget drive. And the larger the capacity of an Nvme drive or solid state drive is, the faster it transfers data. So you could have a bunch of the same Nvme drives, and the only thing different is their size. Otherwise, they're the same model. This is a 500 gig model. This is a 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, and 4 terabyte. Well, whatever the read speeds are on the 500, they're faster on the 1 terabyte. Whatever the read speeds are on the 1 terabyte, they're faster on the 2 terabyte. Whatever the read speeds are on the 2 terabyte, they're faster on the 4 terabyte. Because the capacity of the drive, if that's the only thing that's any different, is the capacity, it impacts and improves the read performance. Not sure if it impacts the write performance, but it definitely impacts the read performance. So a larger capacity drive, ooh, that's not good, 1,600. Oh, I was way off. I was way too optimistic. Still 3 times faster than a normal solid state drive and about 8 times faster than a mechanical hard drive. It's still not bad, but it looks to be about 60%, perhaps not even 60% of the speed of the reads. Most consumers don't do a lot of data writing. They don't create much. That's what creators do. Not a good content creation laptop. It'll do it. It'll just take a while. But 1662 or 1663 on the write speeds, nothing to brag about. But it's not terrible. You're not exactly hurting with those speeds. And this test is almost finished, and we should have our final numbers here in just a minute. Because these videos are shot live, there's no editing, there's no script, and I really can't predict what's going to happen. So everything you see here is genuine and authentic. under the conditions and circumstances upon which these tests were run on this day of the year. With those updates installed. Everything's updated. Everything's working and looking pretty good. If we want to see who manufactures this drive, we could run the Crystal Disk Info utility, and we can take a look at that. Crystal Disk Info, PC testing software. Crystal Disk Info right here. Let's drag it out. And let's see if we can identify a manufacturer on this NVMe drive. Oh, it's an Intel NVMe drive. Oh, whoa, I didn't expect that. That's a name brand NVMe drive on a budget laptop. You can't complain about that. And I'm kind of curious, if we run CPU-Z on this, what will it tell us our RAM is? Like, what would it say for the slots? Usually CPU-Z will tell you how many available memory slots you're using. We go to memory. Here's our information about the soldered on RAM. Go over to SPD, the serial presence device, and it shows 8 non-existent slots. That's interesting. I was kind of curious if it would just, show nothing. So this is not to be trusted. Can you imagine a laptop that has 8 memory slots? That would be amazing. Yeah, no, there are no memory slots on this at all. But you'll see when we bring up each one, it shows each one is empty. As you see, all of these windows here are blank. I wonder why it does that. That's interesting. Let's take a look at system information. Windows 10 Home. Yeah. 11th gen Core i5 1135 G7 2.4 gig, 4 cores with 8 threads. UEFI mode is the BIOS. We're in the wrong time zone. That's not supposed to happen. I mean, I'm on the same time zone as Pacific time right now, but let me just change to Arizona. Has its own time zone because we never change our clocks. Oh, well, see, set time zone automatically was turned off. Okay, that explains that. Okay, excuse me. Now let's go ahead and just delete this stuff because we're done with it. Dump that. We'll dump that. We'll dump that. Oh, you know what I can do? Uncle Carey's Windows optimization tool. We need to run that on here, don't we? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So here's our Windows 10 optimizer. We'll drag that over, double clicky. Close this. Wait, where is it? That explains that little mystery. And go with all the defaults, hit apply. It just takes a minute. Yeah, you're going to see some access denied stuff. That's just normal processes. That's to be expected. Everything is happening as it's intended. And then in just a moment, it'll be done with the turning off the indexing, which takes up hard drive space for a feature very few people use. And then it's going to want to restart for the changes to take effect, including adding the My PC icon to the desktop and unhiding all of the stuff that was hidden down in the system tray. And I turn this weather thing off. It drives me crazy. It's under news and interests, we just turn off right there. And that goes away. And then restart the computer. Any final questions? It's 11 o'clock at night here in Phoenix. I'm going to wrap this up. I will be live again tomorrow. As always, on every Friday, I am always live at 1 o'clock. If you want to join us in the chat room, you must be a moderator or a member. You'll see that I only have problems in the chat room with people. If there's going to be a problem, 99.9% of the time, it comes from somebody who's not a member and not a moderator. And I've gotten so fed up with it, with the attitude I'm getting, with the challenges I'm getting, with the people who think this is their YouTube channel. They think they have a right to be essentially in my home. I mean, I do invite everybody in my home, but if you start disrespecting me in my home, you don't have a right to be here. You're an invited guest. And some people can't get that through their head. They think that this isn't my home. It is my home, and I've invited you into it. And if you disrespect me in my home, I'm going to kick you out. Well, there's been so much disrespect from bots and spammers and individual users who are entitled that I have resorted to my last resort, which is turning the memberships on. They're $9.99 a month. It helps support the channel. I'm doing all this content at my own expense, apart from the few generous contributors that we have here who have majority been paying for everybody else's way. That's not right. Or I just changed the videos to me just talking and not doing any repairs or builds, so I don't have any investment of parts, and I can just pontificate on my opinions all day, and the videos cost me nothing to make. I certainly wouldn't charge people for that. So if you want to see more content like this, I hope you'll support the channel. And furthermore, if you want to participate in the live chat streams, that's what the membership will get you on top of private member only videos. I won't do many of those, maybe 2 or 3 a month. And it's so cool. I have to tell you, the members only videos, they get like 30 viewers. So it's more like a real classroom. If you've ever taught in a classroom, and I'm imagining most of you haven't, if you've got more than about 25 students, it's really hard to give each student the attention they need because the students may not raise their hand and ask. You can actually see them struggling. But if you're at a lectern and you're a lecturer and you've got an auditorium with 300 students, they could be talking on the phone. You wouldn't even, they're all the way in the back in the dark. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it gets a little chaotic. People could be having a conversation, not listening to a word that you're saying. That doesn't happen in a smaller classroom setting. So I personally, I love the smaller turnout. So when we did our members only video, we had about 32 people in it. It was so nice. Everybody was kind and respectful. It was a pure bliss and enjoyment to actually have my true friends, people that support me and respect what I do, and only them and nobody else. Oh, it's nice. It's like, you know, I have an attentive audience who wants to be there. That's not trying to show me up, not trying to disrespect me. No bots, you know, no disruptors. It was so, so nice. And I'd love for you to be a part of it. But I don't have any way to know if, you know, somebody is, you know, if you haven't been turned blue as a moderator and you're not paying a membership, you can always watch the videos while they're live for free. That's not changing. All I'm doing is I'm making sure the people who can interact with me while I'm live are genuine, real people who respect what I do. That's all. And when I get that sense of disrespect, it's very upsetting because I've not done anything to deserve that sort of behavior. People are invited here. Being here is a privilege. It's not a right. It's only a right if you pay the membership. Then I owe you something. Otherwise, I don't owe you a thing. There are generous members who have contributed to the channel. Some have done so tonight, like Kelly Stewart and Don Dry, and I have my deepest gratitude and thanks to them. And of course, I do feel like I owe them something. So you'll see that it works both ways. You know, you get what you give. And I don't deserve to be disrespected, and I don't deserve to have people watching content they don't like just to criticize me. You know, why would you watch something you don't like? There's lots of other places to go to YouTube. I don't need people thinking their subscription has a value to me. Your subscription has no value. Really, unless you're selling sponsorships, subscriptions are worthless to content creators. I don't know that many viewers know this, but they think their subscription has value. That's why they say, I'm leaving and I'm unsubscribing, as though that matters and anybody would notice. The content creator will get paid exactly the same whether you subscribe or you don't. But if you're a member, oh, that's different altogether. If you're a member, then the content creator is getting paid specifically by you. Then the rules of engagement change a little bit, because now you've paid for something, and your level of expectation has changed because this is no longer a privilege. Now it's become an obligation, right? So you've paid me, and my job is to deliver upon your expectations of what you've paid for. And if I fail in that, and you tell me I failed in it, then it's my job to either correct it, or it's likely you're not going to support me anymore and go somewhere else. And that will financially impact me. So you can see the creator's motivation can be driven either by the sponsors. Now look, if I go and do what all the other big tech channels do, and I go find these big sponsors, all I'm going to be doing is making commercials. And if you want to see 20-minute long commercials paid for and approved by, before they're aired, they have to be approved by the sponsor to make sure that I am showing them in the light they are paying me to show them in. See, because they're paying. Then you can watch these homogenized videos approved by the sponsors before they're aired to you. And I'm just a puppet being paid to speak on behalf of a company. What does that mean for my integrity as a tech? Right? That's my concern. If I wasn't a real tech, who cares? So I only use sponsors that I truly believe in, and I've done some free sponsorship, if you want to call it that. ASUS has never paid me a penny. Never, ever. No one from ASUS PR has ever even so much as sent me an email to say hello. Ever. Ever. And yet, I have brought ASUS here on the show, JJ from ASUS, to specifically talk about their routers. I have their laptop that I physically paid for and sent one to John Wilson because I think it's a good value, and I wanted to show it all to you at my expense. You guys didn't pay anything for, well, unless you're a member or unless you've contributed, because let's face it, the members and the contributors made purchasing this possible. And if you don't want to see content like this, that's fine too, right? Because if I don't have the money to buy it, I either have to get bought or I can just pontificate my opinions on things and we won't even talk about tech anymore. Because then we just talk theory and, general rhetoric, and just sit around and put my feet up on the table, lean back in a chair and read the daily news to you. If that's what you want, I'll make the exact same amount of money, exactly the same amount of money. So the only difference is what's it costing me to make the content. This content costs a lot of money to make. So if memberships and contributions don't improve, then this is the pinnacle of what we're doing. It won't get any better and it won't happen any more often. The channel grows in accordance with how the viewers support it, but the membership, the subscription itself has no value. It's just valueless. So for somebody to say, well, I don't like what you did, so I'm going to punish you by unsubscribing, it's not a punishment. I mean, they get hundreds of new subscribers every day. You'd have to unsubscribe hundreds of people every day, day after day, for me to look at it and go, oh, I'm lost a lot of subscribers. There's 365,000 subscribers. If I lost 100,000 of them, it likely wouldn't change the amount of money I make because the money comes from the number of viewers, and 80% of my viewers are not subscribers. But members who pay for the content, and my moderators who've been helping me for all this time, dealing with all the trolls and the bots and the spammers in the chat room, this is the community that makes us stronger. We work well off of each other, where we're not battling and fighting one another. There's something in it for me, there's something in it for you, and it's all positive. When people come in taking and destroying, it's all for them. It's nothing in it for you, and there's nothing in it for me. Therefore, all the future videos, with a few exceptions like tonight's, are going to be locked out of, general viewers will be locked out of the chat room during the live broadcast. They can watch the chat room, they can watch the live video. All that's still free. However, they will not be able to interact with me. So it's a pay-to-play kind of a concept, and I'm upset that I had to do that. It really disappoints me in the state of the human race, the amount of entitlement and delusion people have. Because those people who thought they could do that and get away with it, what are they going to do about it? Okay, this thing that you thought wasn't going to happen has just happened. So if you have some power or authority over me, what are you going to do about it? And you'll see as time goes on, those people just go away. There's nothing they can do because they're not in a position of authority or influence. So they're completely harmless. They're all just noise. Anyway, that's what I have to do to get rid of them. For them to accept reality, to realize how powerless they are and that being here is truly a privilege and not a right. And after they get banned, they can just silently watch the videos as they, we basically tied their hands so they can't type anymore. At least not interacting in the live video. And, if they want to leave a nasty comment afterwards, I'll ban them there. So it's really their choice if they want to be a part of this community. And it doesn't make any sense why they jump into a community they don't want to be a part of. There's lots of other choices on YouTube. And I don't want them here if they don't want to be here. It's just weird. Anyway. Opening up the chat room tonight has reminded me why I've done this. A lot of entitlement. So much entitlement. So much privilege. Wow. And it's not really there. It's all an illusion. And it becomes very much a reality the minute they get banned and they're completely unable to communicate at all. And they did it to themselves. I didn't ask them to do that. I didn't encourage it. And they think they're important and they matter. And, I'm sure to the people that know them in real life, that may be true. I would hope so. But as an avatar on a screen, if you can't be polite and you can't show respect and you're not going to voluntarily remove yourself, well, this is what it's come to. So it's helping to separate the wheat from the chaff, to separate our true supporters and friends of the community from those who perhaps are not here for the right reason. Unfortunately, there will be some collateral damage for people for one reason or another who can't afford to be a part of it. But this is not a life-critical thing that I'm denying you. It's nothing more than the ability to interact with me. And much like customers, if you want to hire me, I don't do that work for free. And as much as I try and give out for free on YouTube, it appears by giving out something for free, there's a large percentage of the population that thinks it's worthless. So by charging for it, now the assumption is it's worth something. And if I do decide to open the chat room for free, then I hope people will respect the value of it that they weren't respecting before. Well, we'll wait and see what happens. But in the meantime, I appreciate all you guys for hanging out with me tonight and interacting with me. And we had some good questions in there tonight, and a lot of misinformation as always. But it drives me crazy to just see that no matter what I do, the misinformation doesn't change. It's still, I don't think I've made a dent in it, but I guess that's job security for me. In the meantime, thanks to Kelly Stewart, thanks to Peter Laycock, thanks to all the contributors. I see a few other contributions have come in here. Gainsy95 contributes £10. Hey, thank you, Gainsy95. And Madi Yoel with a $5 contribution. And Terry Zanders with a $5 contribution. Thanks, you guys. Richard Palmentier with a $2 contribution. I hope I got everybody's. There's Paul Carroll's. I mentioned that one. He contributed $10 earlier. And then my chat just kind of ends at that. I can't go any further up. But I will be back live as I am each and every Friday. The show airs at 1 p.m. That's when it starts on Fridays. I hope you'll join me. That's going to be Pacific time, 1 p.m. Pacific time. And you don't have to wait for notifications. I will be here at 1 p.m. Pacific time every single Friday. When daylight savings changes Pacific time, we'll talk about that. But for right now, we're in May 19th of 2022. We are currently on the same time zone as Pacific time. So 1 p.m., that's 4 p.m. Eastern, and that's every single Friday. Every single Friday. Tomorrow, like I said, I'm going to try and find something to stall with, waiting for FedEx to deliver John Yasuda's computer to me from Los Angeles. It's a system I built about 3 years ago, and it's got a weird problem with it that I really want to see it because I don't really understand it, and the way he's describing it isn't making any sense. So I'm anxious to get that on the bench, and I'm hoping it will arrive during tomorrow's live show, and I can pull it out of the box and set it up on the counter. It doesn't get much more real than that, or much more authentic to computer repair. It's a real customer with a real problem, with a real computer, doing a real live video with a real tech diagnosing it. And I hope you'll see the value in that and appreciate, I put myself out there, and it's all unscripted and I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm that confident that whatever it is, I can fix it. I've been right 100% of the time so far, so maybe tomorrow things will be different. Let's hope not. Thanks you guys so much for watching. I hope that I'll see you tomorrow. I guess I can turn off this laptop screen from there. And yeah, let's run another one of these new intros that my sister has made for me. I hope she's going to get some more here soon, because my other intros were getting stale. All right, here's a new one. I hope you guys like it. It kind of looks like my sign back here. If we light this up. All right. Good night. Bye for now. Oh, that's not the one. Sorry, false alarm. It's this one.